I'm hoping it's not crazy long. I've got a show tonight that I'm hopping to after this yet. Down at Paper Science at St. Mary's. So I'm all packed and ready to go straight over there.
Good evening, good evening. We're going to get started. If you'd find your seat, please. Good evening. If you'd find your seat, please. Buenas noches. Este anuncio es para las personas que hablan español. Esta sesión va a ser en inglés. Si alguien no entiende el inglés y quisiera seguir la sesión en español, puede pasar con nosotros al final de la sala para recibir su receptor. Gracias. Thank you.
Good evening. I want to thank everyone for being able to attend this evening. You can feel the energy and the excitement in the room. Having said that, we're going to turn it over to Maria. Go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you so much, and good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here, those of you who are joining us as we have public comment scheduled for today, and of course to our committee members for being here. So what I'm going to do real quick is just go over the agenda for tonight. So since we have a full agenda, we'll get started right away. So what we are going to do is, at the request of the committee members at the last meeting we had, we are going to have some staff presentations. We have our chief, Charles Hood, today, our fire chief, to talk about fire stations. There were a lot of questions about that. There was also a request to have our Animal Care Services Department present on the Animal Care Veterinary Hospital. So we will do that. And also we have our Department of Human Services will make a presentation on the Ella Austin project. So that is the first item on the agenda. Second to that, we have a couple of agencies that will be presenting as well. Meals on Wheels will do a brief presentation of a project request that they have. It's not currently included in the recommended list. And then we also going to have our library board make a brief presentation as well. After that, we will take public comment. And if time allows, depending on how that goes, we are going to take discussion from bond committee members. And then we're going to talk about the next steps, as this is our third meeting. And then the fourth meeting is when we're going to start making decisions on the recommendations that this committee will bring forward to the full council. So I understand that we have several members that are signed up to speak. So we will do, I'll leave up to the chair in terms of the time that those individuals will be able to do. So if you're okay, Chairman, we can start with the presentation from Charles Hood, our fire chief.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Let's get started.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the bond community and concerned citizens. It's an honor to make this presentation today. So since 2004, we've replaced 11 fire stations. 8 of those are certificate of obligation, which is on the capital budget. 2 are from the bond, Fire Station 2 and Fire Station 30. 1 was from the 2017 bond, Fire Station 24, which is our busiest fire station probably at the time, off of Austin Highway. Is currently under construction. You can see the rendition there in the corner. 8 fire stations have been added, fire stations 47 through 54. 8 of those are C of O from the capital budget, and 3 are temporary stations, which are 52, 53, and 54. This is an example of Station 52 with a permanent apparatus bay and a temporary modular building. Total investment since 2004 has been $155.5 million. If you look at this map, our fire stations are strategically deployed. There are no council districts on here because our fire units run throughout this city. And so new stations added, you can see 49, 51, 47, 48, 54, 53, 50, and 52. Those are the ones that we talked about, new added. Stations that have been replaced, and these are some of our busiest areas of the city, majority of them inside of 410. Station 32, 27, 19, 28, 24 is under construction. Station 30, which had the square footage of about 1,600 square feet when we built it, very small. Fire Station 18, Fire Station 1 downtown, Fire Station 2, Fire Station 25. The rest of the stations are stations that you see that are in the lighter shade of green, all strategically deployed throughout the city. We also show our training academy, EOC, and public safety, our PSAT, where we dispatch our 911 calls. The main thing about adding resources to the fire department infrastructure that it improves response times. That's a true way for us to get to you quicker by building bigger stations to where we can add resources. If you look at this list and this plethora of equipment, we have added a ladder truck to Station 2 in a squad, a platform truck to the east side, Station 18, Station 19, a battalion chief medic officer, our MIH, and our medical special operations unit, Station 28, a safety officer, and through fire stations 47 and 54, that's a total of 8 engine companies, 2 peak medic units, Fire Station 51 off of Beckwith and I-10, our second heavy rescue, and a platform truck. So the only way for us to get to you when you're having your worst day is to improve our infrastructure and be able to add personnel and resources. So these are a few of the stations that have been replaced. You see Fire Station 19, 2-story station in District 1, $5.1 million. You see Station 28, and this is just a sample size of the stations, and we build them to fit the communities that they're going to be in. Fire Station 18 off of W.W. White, very underserved area on the east side of San Antonio that had a small square footage, probably of about 2,800 square feet. We were able to add a platform truck and a squad. Station 30 on Gimbler Road, we were able to also add a peak time medic unit to that station. And then we look at Fire Station 2, we've added a platform truck and a squad, and we still have the ability to add more personnel and resources in these stations. Fire Station 52, as we mentioned, it's a temporary, you saw that picture earlier. Fire Station 53 and 54 being the last station we completed in 2019. So again, these stations are temporary, but we do have the capabilities of adding a building to the apparatus bays that you see to continue to add personnel. So maintenance performed by a BESD and the fire department. Some of you took a tour the other day, you went by Station 10. So multifaceted or small maintenance and repair team, that's a SMART team. They do 5 fire stations a year, and you can see some of the work that's been done as far as the grout, the bathroom being done, and then the deferred maintenance programs, which are larger projects that will be done. Also, things are done as far as contractual maintenance, upkeep, bay doors, our climate vent exhaust system, which is critical for cancer, and our firefighters making them safe, air conditioning, generators, and pest control is all done with the fire department operating budget. So this is an example of a SMART team at one of the stations as far as the exterior work of before and after, and also the tile work before and after. And so for 2022, we're going to have a new strategic plan update, which is going to prioritize those stations that you saw that were in that lighter color of orange, not the newest stations, but again, the ones that will be prioritized to either replace or remodel them. If it's a larger remodel or replacement, what we will do is go back to look at the annual capital budget process, or we will look at the bond process as far as what we're doing today. So this concludes my presentation. It's an honor to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief, for that presentation. Committee chairs, what I would suggest is that we continue with the presentations and leave questions at the end of the meeting after we take public comment, if you're okay with that.
That's fine.
Very good. So with that, I'm going to ask our next presenter, Bethany Colonese with our Animal Care Services Department, is here to talk about the proposed project related to Animal Care Veterinarian Hospital. Bethany?
Thank you. And before you get started, just a little bit of housekeeping. I didn't mention before Chief spoke, we have 5 minutes for each of these presentations, and we have a timer right here. So please pay attention to the timer, which will change colors the closer you get to 5 minutes. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Good evening. I'm Bethany Colonies, Chief Operations Officer for Animal Care Services. Thank you for the opportunity to tell you about our proposed bond project. ACS has proposed a $15 million hospital on our campus at 151. This hospital will allow ACS to further its mission of serving both the pets and people in our community with up-to-date medical treatments and compassionate care. Our current campus and clinic was built for the world that existed in 2007, with a little room to grow. The clinic, at 2,700 square feet, was built to provide minimal medical care for campus pets. At the time, 3 out of 4 animals that came to ACS were euthanized. To put this into context, the euthanasia building is larger than our clinic today. With progressive programs and thinkers, ACS and the San Antonio community have worked diligently to now save over 90% of the animals that come through our doors, and we have done so for 5 years running. While improving medical care has been a large part of the success at ACS, we still lag behind other municipal shelters. We lack shelter basics, such as separation for disease control, surgery space, as well as adequate room for diagnostics and treatments. We also operate, and this may surprise you in 2021, without an X-ray machine or basic blood work. To say that we have squeezed every bit of functionality and life out of the existing clinic is an understatement. But just like the little engine that could, she's given it all she's got. The proposed hospital will be designed and built with our current and future shelter needs in mind. The vast majority of pets adopted in this community, even from our local rescue groups, first come through the doors of ACS. ACS is the starting point for our most vulnerable and medically disadvantaged pets. To be a good partner to our adopters and rescue groups, ACS needs to be able to provide clear diagnostics and treatments. The lives of the thousands of sick, injured, and abused pets rely on our medical intervention to ensure a smooth transition from the streets to the shelter to snuggled in their new homes. As San Antonio seeks to improve the welfare of our community pets, we have 2 large issues to resolve: affordable spay and neuter surgery and attracting veterinarians. This hospital will more than double the capacity for sterilization surgeries. By performing these added surgeries, ACS will be able to reduce the overpopulation problem and ensure residents who need these surgeries for their pets who normally couldn't afford them now have options. The U.S. is currently experiencing a shortage in veterinarians, particularly those who specialize in shelter medicine. A new hospital with the room and capabilities to host and train will increase our long-term attractiveness to veterinarians. The city has continued to invest in the future and raise the bar for both our pets and people. This hospital will maintain and improve the profile for animal welfare in San Antonio. ACS is a different department than it was 14 years ago. This hospital will not only bring ACS up to current medical standards, it will prepare San Antonio and our community pets for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Bethany, for that overview of the Animal Care Veterinarian Hospital project. Our next presentation is from our Human Services Department and to talk about the Ella Austin Community Center proposed project.
Good evening, Bond Committee members and Chairman. My name is Jessica Dovalina, and I'm Assistant Human Services Director with the City of San Antonio. As Maria mentioned, I will be presenting staff's recommendations related to proposed public improvements at the Ella Austin Community Center. So just some background on the site before we review the recommendations. The Ella Austin Community Center has had significant, a cultural significance for the District 2 community for many years. And that's through both the historic design of the site as well as the programming that's been traditionally provided at the site. The main building of the campus was first constructed in 1923 by the San Antonio Independent School District as part of a large capital campaign. They later added an auditorium in 1930 and then added additional site improvements between 1930 and 1950 that have given us the campus we have today. The site did operate as a junior high school until the late 1960s, And then the city of San Antonio actually acquired the facility from SAISD in 1976. We began leasing that facility to the L. Austin Community Center nonprofit organization, so the same name of the facility, but it's actually the nonprofit organization that leases the facility, in 1983. And as I mentioned earlier, our nonprofit partner has provided a host of very important services to the community, and that includes early childhood development, youth, senior, and family stability programming. The site is very large. It is a pretty extensive campus that has roughly 5 structures that span 63,000 square feet. And you can see here an aerial diagram of the campus. That includes a main building, a gym, a senior center, a modular building, metal storage building, as well as ample on-site parking and several community gardens. Total recommended funding is in the amount of $23 million, and that's really what we anticipate we will need to do a full site renovation. Given the age of the facility and the extensive nature of the renovations that we're recommending, we do believe that there will be several investigative studies that will need to be completed as part of that process. That'll include an environmental assessment, a structural study, a mechanical system study, and we will be working with the Historic Review and Design Commission as well. Of the $23 million that is recommended, we are proposing that $11.5 million be funded through the 2022 bond and $11.5 million be funded through intercity tiers funding. That funding will really help us to replace the HVAC, electrical, and plumbing systems, replace window and exterior door systems, complete structural upgrades to the facility to improve the safety of the campus, complete parking lot improvements, elevator replacement and upgrade, floor and ceiling replacement. And again, given the age of the facility and the extensive nature of the renovations, we do anticipate that it'll take roughly 3 to 4 years to complete. And so we would be working very closely with the nonprofit organization and the families and community that access that center to make sure that we're minimizing any kind of programming impact. So again, in total, our recommendation for funding includes $11.5 million of 2022 bond funding and $11.75 million of 2022 through 2025 intercity tours funding. Of that amount, $250,000 is recommended for a site feasibility study, and that study would really help us to determine what's the best and highest use for the campus. It would rely on a pretty robust community engagement process so that the final recommendations from the report reflect the needs and wants of the community. And the remaining amount of $11.5 million, again, would be directed towards public improvements. This does conclude our staff's presentation, and we're happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Jessica, for that presentation. That concludes item number 2 on the agenda, and I will move forward to item number 3. And we'll start with a representative from Meals on Wheels to make a brief presentation about the proposed project that is currently not in the recommended projects that the committee is considering. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Vincent Ferris, Chief Executive Officer, Meals on Wheels. Appreciate the opportunity to be here to present our Time to Deliver campaign for a new Meals on Wheels meal production facility and program facility. I have to point out Ms. Clara, who's smiling down on all of us there from the screen. She was one of our founders back in the mid-'70s, also wound up being a client here just a few short years ago. I'm going the wrong way. Clicker is not working here, guys. One more.
Which button are you pressing?
Right. Down.
It doesn't sound like, it sounds like only one slide came through.
We'll leave Ms. Clara up there then. Committee members, you have the slide deck in your pack there, so if you would follow along with me, the rest of you in the audience, I'm sorry you don't have that. Meals on Wheels is here to help people stay in their homes where they want to stay, where they want to be, where they belong. We're providing needed nutrition and other services to prevent them from being isolated and totally cut off from the outside world. Committee, you see the slide that shows the number of clients that are currently being served throughout San Antonio and council districts today, as well as those that will be needing services in the immediate future and those in the not too distant future. We are serving these folks through home delivered meals, Comfy Casas, Friendly Vista, Anna Meals, and Alzheimer's services. Our current facility, as I mentioned, we were with you here a couple of weeks ago, was built in 1974 as a Wyatt's cafeteria. We've been operating there since 1995. The facility is too small, it's too tired, it is too inadequate. It severely limits what we do today and, of course, what needs to be done tomorrow. We've been working on a new facility for 5 years. You have a picture of the front of the building there in your packet. It is a well-planned facility that's going to be located on 6 acres off of Nacogdoches and 410 here in the heart of San Antonio. It's going to have plenty of space. It'll be very efficient. And the key word here, has intentional design. It is incredibly functional. Currently, in the little space that we have on 410, we amazingly produce 10,000 meals per day. This new facility is designed to do 10,000 hot meals per shift, which would be 30,000 meals per day, plus thousands of frozen meals and shelf-stable meals, which we cannot do currently. Project started out at $18 million. It has grown to almost $23 million. You have some cost sheets there. It has grown because of expanded scope. This has become because of increased need across the community, as well as learnings that we have gained from the pandemic and the last winter storm. We were also experiencing significant cost increases due to the current financial climate. Currently, we've raised approximately $10 million in philanthropic support. We have over $5 million from new market tax credits. We have applied to Bexar County ARPA fund for $6 million. That is why we're here before you, the committee, tonight to ask to be included in the City of San Antonio bond program for $1 million. The remaining monies would be made up with philanthropic donations. Meals on Wheels is owned by the community we serve. We're here to improve the overall quality of life for our citizens and especially the seniors here in San Antonio. The City of San Antonio's senior investment would reaffirm the city's core belief and commitment that we support our seniors. I'd now like to ask our very dear friend of Meals on Wheels, Chef Johnny Hernandez, to close us out here. Chef?
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm here as a friend, a volunteer, and an admirer of the work that Meals on Wheels does every day for our city and for our seniors. I have to tell you a quick story of why I admire them. In 2001, some of you may know me from my catering company and our restaurants, but in 2001, Mayor Ed Garza asked me if I would help the city centralize the senior nutrition program. And the food was being prepared across the city at many locations. And the mayor, Mayor Garza, wanted to feed more seniors. I mean, that was the goal. We needed to increase the number of seniors. And we were able to do that. We worked with the city for about 2 years. And over those 2 years, I got to spend a lot of time visiting senior centers, went to many senior dances. We still do senior Thanksgiving luncheons for them. You know, Betty Eckert is still calling me to make sure that we improve the food for our seniors that are so important, the most important citizens of our community. At the end of that 2-year project and commitment, the seniors threw a big party for us at the West End Community Center, just thanking us for the work that we had done. The seniors are very special to me, and this project is very important to me personally. The seniors are so important, and I know that it is a growing population that needs nutritional food, need fresh food, and I know that the Meals on Wheels team is committed to doing that. If you ever hosted a party at your house for 20, 30 people, you know how hectic it is. Imagine preparing 10,000 meals a day. You cannot create great food without the right infrastructure, without the right equipment. Meals on Wheels has been a powerful local nonprofit organization doing wonderful work in our city for many years. They have been great stewards, and I admire the work that they do. I'm committed as a friend and as a volunteer. This facility is going to be amazing. You need the infrastructure. The best companies in the world, the best organizations in the world are focused on their core mission. Meals on Wheels' core mission is to serve our seniors. and they desperately need this facility. I've been into the small one they have now, and it is amazing what they do every day. They make miracles
you.
happen.
Thank you very
much. Gracias.
Thank you for that presentation. And our next presentation is from our library board. Paul Stoll is here to talk about our city libraries. Paul?
Thank you very much, Maria. Good evening. My name is Paul Stahl. I'm Chair of the Library Board of Trustees. Right or left, up or down? Right. Here we go. Library Board of Trustees is appointed by the City Council, one trustee from each council district, as well as a mayoral appointee. The Library Board is a policy-making governing body as designated in the city charter, and that's unique in that regard. The Library Board is responsible for making budget and bond requests, which the board takes very seriously and uses all methods of due diligence with its professional staff and city management to make those requests. Our 2022 bond deliberations have been ongoing for over 18 months now, and they fall under our guiding bond principles, including equity, innovation, and the long-range library facilities master plan, which we have. This master plan is very important to the quality of our library locations and to the customer experience at each library building. This building planning effort was undertaken back in 2007 when the library buildings were in very poor condition. This continuously updated plan continues to be used diligently to make sure that this standard is maintained and the buildings don't fall back into disrepair, as well as to make sure that the community needs are met through the best spaces and technologies. I'm very thankful to the voters and to the city leadership for honoring the plan over time and supporting the past bond requests. Often, the full scope of what the library does in the community is not front of mind. The library is a key player in achieving many of the goals of the community where San Antonio has been and continues to lag behind. Literacy of all kinds, reading, writing, digital, financial literacy. All of those are key areas of focus for the library through its resources and programs. Digital inclusion has been a particular area of focus over the past few years, and the pandemic underscored what we already knew, which is people cannot succeed without access to devices and broadband internet, but also need people who can help them use those technologies. The library fulfills all those needs for its customers. Next, let me share some of the library metrics that show the robust use of the libraries. Often, folks are surprised by the high use of San Antonio Library, of the library system. You can see there's over 5 million visits to library locations annually with 8 million items checked out, 2 million hours of computer time and Wi-Fi use, and not to mention the programs for all ages from birth all the way to 100 and more. The stats tell the scale, but the stories tell the impact. So one of my favorite recent stories is about the Older Adults Device Lending Program. It's a program launched during the pandemic in partnership with the city's comprehensive senior centers to provide iPads with data plans for checkout to seniors. The program had reducing social isolation and digital inclusion as its goals, and the initial response was wonderful. Participants got to check out iPads for up to 6 months. One of the customers was thrilled to be able to download the Bible to her device. Another person couldn't wait to get onto TikTok. So consequently, our staff joked that this could be our new tagline, your San Antonio Public Library, everything from the Bible to TikTok. These stats are for fiscal year 2019, which was pre-pandemic. It will take time to get back and exceed our 2019 numbers, but this is why the board feels so strongly that the bond request must be about the mid to long range goals and, for the future. With that, I want to specifically ask for the support of the board recommended short list of projects. Those are in your packets. You can get more details. I'll speak to them now. So 3 of the projects shown here are part of the city's recommended list, and the board fully supports them. Note that these 3 projects were taken from the prioritized list submitted by the board and have the board's full support as they are needed the most. I did want to touch on the Las Palmas project, of which the library is a portion of the total. The Las Palmas Branch Library opened in 1994. So you might think that that was pretty recent, but keep in mind that we're closer to the year 2040 than we are to 1994. Las Palmas is officially vintage. This location has a current bond project, bond project that was partially funded in the last bond cycle. In the community input process for that project, the community had many aspirational ideas for the branch, and those exceeded the funded scope of the current project. This phase 2, which we're asking for, would allow many of those aspirations to be achieved and would respond in a real way to that overwhelming community input. The library improvements would align with the overall completed West Side area study as well. The portion needed for the branch itself is $2.5 million, and the scope is outlined in your packet. In addition to these 3 city projects, the library board requests also consideration for 2 additional high priority projects. The Bazan Branch Library opened in 1993, vintage again. This West Side Library branch lacks many of the amenities and resources that newer branches have, and we feel that it's time that this is addressed in the bond. As you can see on the project sheet, the community needs greatly improved age-based areas for children and teens, additional technology, computers, enhancements to the
Mr.
Learn
Stahl,
Center.
we're at 5 minutes. You want to
Great, I
wrap
didn't
it
bring my
up?
timer up. Thank you all very much. We have some others signed up to speak that might touch on some of these projects. Thank you all very much for your attention.
Thank you, Paul, for that presentation. This concludes item number 3, and we are ready to take public comments. I'm going to turn it over to our committee co-chairs.
Maria, before we do that, if you don't mind, I did see the District 2 City Council member walk in. If you want to go ahead and acknowledge any of the elected officials, the council members that are present, please.
Sure. So I see Councilman McKee Rodriguez. Thank you, Councilman, for being here. And I also see Councilwoman Villagrán from District 3, who's also joining us tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Maria. So as we get started with public comments, it appears that we've got, we got about 45 individuals signed up to speak. So each individual is going to be allotted 1 minute for 45 minutes. If we don't feel that we get it in enough, we can always extend our 8 p.m. deadline afterwards. I'd like to make sure that we respect that we have internal dialogue as a committee as well. 1 minute is not fair, but we need to be realistic of the evening. And so we'll entertain, let's see how it goes. And if we need to bring people back up or we have questions, that's definitely an option. If not everybody is covered or included, we can figure it out afterwards.
And we'll allow 5 minutes for a group.
5 minutes for a group.
Can a motion be made at all by committee members or no? Can a motion be made?
So,
A motion be made for the amount of time for public comment?
yeah, there's no motion needed. The chairs, I think, have the authority
That's
to
correct.
make that decision.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if I
Would the
could,
chairs be willing to hear from the committee members, though, whether or not there's an appetite within the committee to extend that for the people that have come tonight and taken their time out of their days to voice their input for the bond? I think that's what the D2 committee member was referencing.
Second. Yes. So I think if you're going to have a conversation, please have it at the table. Yeah, just use your mic, Mohammed, if you.
Okay, so what got suggested is to extend the meeting to 8:45 and allow 2 minutes per public speaker. Is that correct, Mohammed?
Yes.
So as point of clarity, what we're going to vote on is
No,
extending
the chairs,
it.
you can just decide. You don't need to vote
Okay.
on that. If
So-
you all are in agreement, just do it. Yep.
So, but we do need to take a motion to move the total
No,
time.
no, you can just say that that's what you're going to do.
Why don't we do this? We'd like to, why don't we do this? Let's make it 2 minutes and see where we're at the conclusion of the public comment side.
Perfect.
Then we can decide as a committee, how much time do we need to vet and dialogue about? Is everybody okay with that for 2 minutes of public comment? Okay, we just asked that those for public comment that took time out of their busy day to come and advocate and or talk for or against a project. If you're with a group, let's keep the group comments together. We're going to try to accept, that time is still 5 minutes for the group. Individuals are 2 minutes. It's been requested that if you are registered,
Whoa, sorry. Everyone's awake now. If you are registered as a lobbyist with the city of San Antonio and you're here behalf of a client tonight, that you self-identify. That would be my recommendation.
Okay, chairs, as we start, if I could ask you to give me 5 names so that I can line folks up here to keep us moving. So if you give me the first 5, then after the 4th one, if you do the next 5, that'll keep us moving. So I have 5 chairs up here. So if you're signed up for public comment and you hear your name, come look for me up here and I'll help keep you in order and we'll keep moving if that's okay with everyone.
okay, I think we'll start with the public theater. There are 3 of the first 5 names on the list. So anyone speaking on behalf of the public theater, Cullen Jones, Jean Brady, and Miss Jacky Ward.
And as a reminder, please keep your eye here on the head table at the light, and which will indicate when your time is up, please. Thank you. So as clarity, it'll be 2 minutes each or 5 minutes for a group. So this will be 5 minutes.
Good evening. I'm Jeff Morden. I'm the Chief Development Officer with the Public Theater of San Antonio. I'm here this evening to request your consideration of bond funding in the amount of $1.9 million for the San Pedro Playhouse, a city-owned facility. This theater is recognized as the first municipally built, municipally funded theater in the United States and is located in what is recognized as the second oldest park in the country, San Pedro Springs Park. This iconic structure was built almost a century ago in 1929. Its facade is one of the only few examples of Greek revival architecture in San Antonio and was recreated by Gustav Borglum from the original structure built in 1848 on Market Street. Borglum is known for sculpting Mount Rushmore and the original flame in the Statue of Liberty. An investment by the city is necessary to complete deferred maintenance and capital improvements to preserve its historic and cultural significance, ensure compliance with life and safety codes, increase ADA accessibility, and retain the functional usage to benefit the numerous local organizations and residents of every council district. The San Pedro Playhouse is not located in the TERS and therefore lacks other feasible funding options for significant investment to address the deficiencies. Our current production is the 700th production to be staged at the San Pedro Playhouse. An investment from the city would enable us and other community groups to perform and present their programs that inspire, educate, and connects our diverse communities. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Karen Arredondo, the Chief Technical Director and Facilities Manager at the Public Theater, housed in the San Pedro Playhouse, a city facility. I have also worked for the community theaters, including Teatro Audaz, a community Latino theater company. The public provides free space to produce their work in both of our theater spaces. This is tremendously important as the smaller theater companies that serve diverse audiences struggle to hold spaces given at a high cost of rent and the lack of availability inside the city. But our theater space is in great need of repairs and updates. Among the other things listed in our packet, we need to redo our rigging system used to fly scenery in for our safety concerns. In my almost 20 years of working in theater, I know these improvements are necessary to continue serving our community with free space and to relaunch our youth programs safely. Thank you for considering our $1.9 million request to update and repair our historic theater building.
Good evening. I'm Claudia De Vasco, the new Executive Artistic Director at the Public Theater of San Antonio. As a nonprofit organization, we've been housed at the San Pedro Playhouse since it was constructed. The Public Theater hosts more than 34,000 patrons each year at its productions, and in our engagement programs, including about 3,500 youth each year from all 15 districts in Bexar County, as well as private schools, charter schools, homeschools in our community. Additionally, we provide free space to local groups, as Karen was saying. So you can see the list of different groups that we provide free space to in the packet that we provided. Pretty soon, our theater will be completely inoperable due to rotting wood, safety concerns, deferred maintenance that has been put off for decades. I was hired to transform the organization to push our inclusion and diversity efforts. And we are looking to hire folks like a certain performer in a wheelchair, but we currently are not able to hire them due to lack of reasonable accommodation at our space. There needs to be all kinds of ADA compliant updates. I humbly ask you to consider our requests. We're not currently considered in the program. We have a request of $1.9 million as we work to ensure that our historic theater here in the city continues to operate for another 100 years. Thank you for your consideration.
Next up is Cullen. Here we go.
Cullen Jones. I support the ACS Animal Control Services innovative and responsive model for the 2022 hospital build bond project to make a positive impact in San Antonio. My wife, an ACS advisory board member, and I have worked alongside the rescue community here in San Antonio for over a decade. I'd like to speak quickly on the long overdue increase in kennel capacity. Not a holding pen for more animals, the larger facility gives ACS staff the capability to address medical issues such as isolating quarantine disease animals, the ability to rapidly diagnose sick animals, and the capacity to have a suite for specialized surgeries. Performing sonograms, x-rays, dentals, etc. frees up much needed space to allow more time for the pickup and adopt-out function of ACS to work. This will create a stronger bond between ACS and the rescue community, which plays a critical role in addressing our pet overpopulation problem. Merriam-Webster's defines vulnerable as, quote, capable of being physically or emotionally wounded. As we all know, San Antonio's marginalized communities are home to some rather large populations of the vulnerable. How a community treats its most susceptible, whether they are the homeless, the elderly, or the disadvantaged, speaks volumes. I'm not confusing a homeless person or an elderly person with a stray dog, but vulnerable is vulnerable. I hope you will join me in supporting the ACS bond projects.
Hi there. My name is Jean Brady. I live in District 1 and I represent District 1 on the Library Board of Trustees. I just want to point out and follow Paul up for a minute about the extra ones we're asking for, the Bazan Branch Library transformation, which is $4.5 million, and also an alternative service outlet, which would be a new sort of an express library for a group of people, about 67,000, and that would be around District 4. Now, I'm going to tell you a story. So, and I bet you have one too. Everybody at this table probably has a library story. And we can give you all sorts of statistics, and we can give you all sorts of papers and pictures. But I'm going to tell you the story of a little girl. You might guess who that might be, who grew up reading Nancy Drew. How many read Nancy Drew? How many adventures did Nancy Drew have? One adventure she did not have, I guarantee you, is to come to a public comment board like this. But you never know. Maybe the next one will have that in it. So I hope that you will add these two, plus the three we have, Central, Las Palmas, and Carver, which is a transformational project, and continue to support libraries. Thank you.
Chair, if I could have the next 5, and then we'll go to Jacky Ward.
You got it. Ricardo Calderon, Kevin Downey, Jeremy Landin, Dr. Frass Garcini, and Lisa Cruz.
Hi, I'm Jacky Ward. I'm a veterinary research technician at Texas Biomedical Research Institute. I've worked in this position for only a year, but I feel very accomplished personally and with the work we do every day. I'm also a 2020 graduate of Palo Alto's veterinary technology program at the Alamo Colleges. I attended most of the campuses around town for all my prerequisites. In my second to last semester at Palo Alto, I had the opportunity to complete a summer internship in 2019 at the Institute, Texas Biomed. Being able to personally see the care staff, technicians, and doctors work with their animals day to day solidified my personal choice. The research was something I wanted to do after completing my degree. This last year has been crazy, to say the absolute least. Most of the projects I'm assigned to are assisting in developing vaccines and therapies for COVID-19 and pertussis, also known as whooping cough.
As we know, San Antonio has played a large part in the rapid development of the Pfizer vaccine for COVID that is helping in allowing us to physically be here today in person. And I truly do not think we would be where we are without the labs at Texas Biomed. But as with most anything, there's room to improve. Last February proved that some areas on campus need substantial structure upgrades for the safety of our animals. It is a simple fact the equipment is worn out and old, and while we had people sleeping on campus to help with the heaters and generators all night and day, there's only so much that can be done with old materials. These animals have proved themselves to be our lifeline, and it is our responsibility, and I took an oath to it, to aid animals and society by providing excellent care and services for animals and by promoting public health. Thank you for the opportunity to speak for them.
Hello, my name is Ricardo Calderon, and I'm a lifelong San Antonian. Grew up on the south side of South Flores and Bigfoot Street. And over the last 50 years, I witnessed the transformation of the city into a powerhouse of science and technology. And that science and technology has translated into a positive impact on human health. Now, I worked at Texas Biomed for 20 years. My research is focused on the development of vaccines and therapies to emerging diseases. Our experience in developing vaccines and therapies has directly impacted this pandemic in a positive way. We were involved in actually developing the Pfizer vaccine and developing Regeneron antibodies, and I can tell you that has improved the health of not only our local community, but also our global community. Today, we continue to work on second-generation vaccines for the COVID-19 pandemic. Texas Biomed has over an 80-year history of advancing many technologies that have improved human health. Now, for a very personal story, 12 years ago, my son was born at 24 weeks gestation. He was a micropreemie. He weighed only 1 pound, 15 ounces, and I held him in my hand. I vividly remember the doctor telling me that he only had a 50% chance to survive. And parents here can probably appreciate how devastating that news was. But due to the dedication of the nurses and doctors at Christus Santa Rosa and the use of a high-frequency ventilator, my son survived. That high-frequency ventilator was developed back at Texas Biomed in the 90s. Now my son is a healthy 12-year-old boy. His only affliction is gamer's thumbs from playing too much Xbox. I thank you for the opportunity to speak today, and I encourage you to support science and technology.
Good evening, folks. My name is Kevin Downey. I'm the president and CEO of the local nonprofit Crosspoint. I'm pleased to be in front of you, and I'm going to ask for assistance in funding a women's wellness campus. In partnership with UT Health School of Nursing and with the help of a 19-member visioning committee, we came up with the women most in need of residential and clinical services in this city. This visioning committee was chaired by Sister Gabriela Lohan. Many know her. In addition, we had Representative Minhadas, we had Commissioner Calvert, we had faith community leaders, we had service providers, neighbors, and medical doctors. Our first priority was identified as pregnant and parenting women with substance use disorders and their babies. We want to open up, the first part is a 40-bed facility for the babies and the moms. Bexar County has the highest rate of neonatal abstinence syndrome babies in the state of Texas. These babies, if they go to a hospital instead of getting care in the community, community-based service, typically their stays are 14 to 21 days, and they're going to cost about $70,000 per hospitalization. This would be much cheaper, and it would be way more supportive care if we can do it on the campus. We also have looked at other populations we want to serve, women coming out of behavioral health hospitals who really have nowhere to go, homeless veteran females who need help getting them off the street, and justice-involved women. Another 90 beds would be for these three populations, bringing the total population to 130. We We already serve at Cross Point all of these populations, albeit in very small groups. We're taking the step. We've already purchased 3.8 acres. We have a great group of people. We've designed the buildings and we're ready to go.
Hello, thank you everyone for being here. My name is Jeremy Landin and I am the District 5 San Antonio Public Library trustee. I'm here today to ask for your support in the library master plan for the Las Palmas Library, as well as the consideration of the Bazan Library. Bazan was built in 1993 and lacks many of the amenities of other libraries. But it serves as such a great community resource and a hub for the community, and as well as Las Palmas. We want to see both of those projects fulfilled, and we want to see that you all support those projects because of how important they are. These two libraries sit within a community that historically has been overlooked, and it is my hope that you all will support these projects. As you've seen, our chair, Paul Stahl, and we've got actually many folks who are here in support of the libraries because of how important those facilities have been, not only through the pandemic, but since their inception. And so it's my hope that you all will support the public libraries, and as well on behalf of District 5, I'd like to ask for you all support in the renovation of Fire Station number 33 as well. Thank you.
Good evening, Bond Committee members. I'm Dr. Frass Garcini, and I'm a biomedical scientist. I turned down a postdoc offer from MIT after my doctorate to join a biopharmaceutical company to accelerate clinical research. I'm here tonight as an expert in biomedical research. I'm familiar with biopharma business, associated costs, and especially animal experimentation. I find it my responsibility as a scientist, and more importantly, as a resident of Texas, to warn you against spending $11 million requested by Texas Biomed. Firstly, their primate research center is a threat to our safety. Picture this, you are driving in San Antonio and you see a bunch of guys with protective face masks desperately trying to catch this baboon. This is exactly what happened and what San Antonio folks saw and videotaped in April 2018 when 4 baboons that could have been infected with Ebola or tuberculosis escaped their facility. If I almost started an outbreak, would you want to give me $11 million or would you want to shut down my facility? Ladies and gentlemen, that's how close we got to starting a new pandemic right here outside of our homes in San Antonio, thanks to Texas Biomed. And they actually have been fined previously by USDA for carelessness in accidents such as this. Second, primate research is outdated, expensive to maintain, and ineffective, as we've seen in the case of HIV. Many non-animal methods have already been developed and have proven to be superior to animal use. Remember, monkeys are not tiny humans. They have a different immune system. And results from animal testing can be misleading and can hold back science for decades. Third, this is a waste of money and resources. The $11 million they're asking for is only 8% of their $141 million net assets. I can't emphasize this enough. This company is very well funded and they paid their CEO $650,000 in 2019. So clearly there is no lack of funds here. Members of the committee, I'm here today because of my sense of duty.
Your
and I
time
strongly,
is up, Doctor.
I'm about to finish. And
10 seconds.
Yes, I strongly advise you against this bond. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairs, if I could have the next 5, please.
So the next 5 will be Lisa Cruz.
I think there's one more on the first page. Sorry.
I'm
to
sorry,
interrupt.
Dr. Liz Tyson, Amy Hone, Linda Aragon, McDonald, and Marcy Ency.
Good evening. My name is Lisa Cruz, and I'm a resident of District 10 and lifelong citizen of San Antonio. I'm also the head of communications at Texas Biomed. I want to thank the committee members for this opportunity to share why the funds we're requesting are so critical for the future health of our community. We've provided a handout with some additional details. Texas Biomed's bond request is a portion of a $30+ million infrastructure project to support a 10-year strategic growth plan. This growth includes a doubling of staff to more than 700 employees with good paying jobs. This infrastructure project also helps support the growth of our educational outreach programs that impact nearly 10,000 students each year from kindergarten through graduate school. Students in every school district across the city participate in these programs. And ultimately, this infrastructure project supports the life-saving science being done at Texas Biomed, science that has resulted in HIV survivors living longer, hepatitis C patients being cured, premature infants being able to breathe on a ventilator long enough for their lungs to form. All of this progress has happened because of the science being done right here in San Antonio by our friends and neighbors. A lot of good questions have been asked about our animal research program, and we appreciated the opportunity to discuss these concerns and provide insight into our program. It's critical to remember that the international scientific community recognizes the need for animals in research, and it is highly regulated. We are proud of our ethical, compassionate animal care program. I am proud to work at this institute that has been a part of the public safety fabric in San Antonio for 80 years. Ultimately, this bond request is about supporting science in our community and investing in the future of community health. Thank you.
Sure. Good evening. My name is Dr. Liz Tyson. I'm Programs Director and Head of Sanctuary for the global nonprofit Born Free USA. I run one of the largest primate sanctuaries in the United States, which is based right here in Texas, just 70 miles south of San Antonio. Today, I want to tell you about a monkey called Theo. You have a photo of him. Theo was a handsome rhesus macaque who came to us from a laboratory when he was deemed no longer of use. Monkeys used in labs often demonstrate disturbing behaviors known as stereotypies. These include self-harming, pacing, over-grooming, repetitive rocking, head twisting, and other functionless repetitive actions. Stereotypies are their way of coping with their past trauma. Theo was one of those monkeys. It took years for Theo to feel safe, and when we finally saw his stereotypy subside, but then Theo developed an eye infection. We took him to a specialist and found that a long piece of conductive wire had been left lodged in his skull by the lab. We had to surgically remove it. He was almost blinded by this sheer negligence. Theo lived with us for 11 years until he passed away peacefully last year. We receive little to no funding to care for traumatized monkeys like Theo, so it's difficult for us to comprehend that a multi-million-dollar heavily subsidized company is being considered for such a boon. To put this into perspective, our 350 plus monkeys are cared for on a budget of around $600,000 to $800,000 a year. With that, we provide the absolute highest standard of care and have met the rigorous standards of the Global Federation of Animal Sanctuaries, for which we have full accreditation. Some of you visited the lab last weekend. Please think back to the many faces you saw there and remember Theo. Hundreds of Theos, most of whom will never see the outside of that place. The majority of monkeys in labs, tens of thousands across the United States, will die there. Put bluntly, they will be killed there. I'm not here today to convince you that animal testing is wrong. I'm simply asking you to not commit San Antonio taxpayer dollars to the objectively controversial proposal to fund Texas Biomed. I would also like to extend an invitation to any of you who would like to visit our sanctuary to see a comparison to what you saw last week. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Amy Hone. I'm the Executive Director of the San Antonio Public Library Foundation, and I'm a resident of District 8. I'm here to speak in support of all 5 of the library bond projects. All of the proposed library bond projects hope to do one thing: keep our libraries viable, visible, and vital. But why is a viable library system and a vital library system important to any community? Because libraries are the center of our community. Libraries are the keepers of our history and fountains of knowledge. Libraries stand for open and equitable access to information for all. A child in any sort of family situation can go into their neighborhood library and not only participate in the outstanding programming and get the homework help they need, but they can find a haven. Those children, like generations of children before them, can lose themselves in a book, learn about other places, other people, and a world that they can't see themselves. No matter the family's income, no matter the family's status, no matter how volatile their home life may be, they can walk into any library. Those children can walk into the door at the library and find a caring librarian who can help them discover what they can make of their life in the future. They can discover a love of reading, which is the basis of all education, and turn that education into a better life. Supporting our library's bond project request means supporting those children and their futures, because the higher quality our library becomes, the higher quality our community will be. These projects address the changing and growing needs in our community for increased literacy education, the geographic desert of library services, and an increased demand for connectivity as well as infrastructure. I'm asking that you fully fund all of the 2022 library bond projects, to include the additional Bazan branch transformation and the Port SA Lackland Express Plus outlet. Thank you for this opportunity to speak.
Good evening, and thank you for giving us this time to speak. I'm Linda Orange. I'm past president of the Friends of the Library and currently serving as vice president of Las Palmas. So I have a special interest in this. In your flyer that they passed out on page 9, we have a nice picture of the front of our library. Our library does not look like that. It has nice little benches. Currently, we have cement benches out there. During the summer, people cannot sit out there and use their iPads or their phones because most of the people in that area don't have Wi-Fi. But imagine sitting on concrete benches. You can't do that. You can't sit out there for very long. Also, you have a pretty picture on the following page of a basketball court. And we hope that this is what we have in the future. But currently, we have an area where even Manu Ginobili couldn't dribble down this court and score. Not only because it's not level, but we also don't have a basket at the other end. The third thing is the trails would be wonderful because that area has a lot of areas where the kids cannot drive their little bicycles safely or people cannot use their wheelchairs. So this would give them a great opportunity to be able to enjoy the outdoors and be able to see what's around them. It would be a friendly place. We are the hub of that area. People feel safe. And so it would be great if they could enjoy all these places, especially where they have shade, because right now all we have is sunshine. So thank you very much. We hope that you agree that we need this renovation.
Oh, my name is Diane McDonald. I'm a resident of San Antonio for over 65 years now. I'm here to speak in opposition to the funding for TBRI. The majority of the primates there, on or about 3,000 primates, are warehoused in outside cages. In fact, according to the 2020 reports to the USDA, the facility only uses about 30% of their monkeys in research. Despite having thousands of monkeys, they didn't use any of those monkeys from their facility when they reported that they helped the Pfizer develop a COVID-19 vaccine. Maybe because of the poor health of their monkeys. TBRI is not very transparent about what goes on behind the walls of its monkey facility or what is going on inside their facility. For example, they have not told the public that some of the monkeys in their colony are infected with Chagas disease. We have increasingly been hearing about public health threats of Chagas disease. What we haven't heard is that the monkeys have been getting this naturally, being infected by insects in the community. The assassin bugs that transmit the parasite feed on rodents and monkeys and humans. Chagas causes serious and sometimes fatal disease in humans, dogs, monkeys. No one knows for sure what percentage of the monkeys are infected with Chagas because TBRI is not talking about the public health needs. It is suggested that 2 to 3% of the monkeys have already been affected. This poses a serious threat to the community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to give you the next 5 names.
Awesome.
So we have Sharon.
Hello. Oh, I'm sorry.
John Castillo, Denise Leddit, Catherine B., and Maria Green.
Dwayne, I think you were muted on the first one. Could you give us the first one again?
First name again is Sharon Ruiz.
Hello, I'm Marcy Inns, and I represent District 9 on the Library Board of Trustees, and I've also served on the ad hoc committee determining what projects we need to consider. We had over 30 projects, and we whittled them down to what was the most important, and looking through the equity lens eye, which I totally agree with, and I'm really proud of the city for taking this into consideration. So we came up with the projects that we thought were the most important. And I want to say I am a volunteer. I don't get paid a single nickel for what I do, but I'm very proud of our libraries. I've been very horrified with the recent banning of books in our school libraries who affect the most marginalized people in our community. But I'm proud to say that they can come to the public libraries. We're not going to ban books there, and they can find themselves. And I think that the money going into the libraries is so important, especially now of what's going on. And so I want to strongly ask you to support all of our libraries, all the programs that we give, and to probably help those people who have no other place to go. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Sharon Reese. I'm a lifelong resident of San Antonio, and I'm here tonight to request this committee remove a police substation recommendation. I live in District 5, and I'm concerned that funding of a new facility leaves no funding to repair or replace existing facilities throughout the city. I'm also concerned about the lifetime impact of the new central substation and any new police facility would have on annual public safety budget. This committee needs to take in consideration that the central substation is estimated to be completed in 2023. According to the last memo of the city manager's office, the projected annual operation of the cost of the central substation is estimated at $4.5 million. If we pass this, the southeast substation, then we could expect to add another $4.5 million down the road. City Council has decided that the public safety budget will not exceed 66% of the annual budget. So that can mean that the fire department will have to take a reduction in their funds in the future. In the city of San Antonio, our fire department responds to both fire and EMS calls. I live in a multi-generational household, and the last thing I want to worry is if the fire department doesn't have the resources to respond to the urgent to fire or medical calls in my neighborhood. If residents of District 3 have a problem with the service they receive from SAPD, then they will take it up at SAP directly and urgently. That being said, over-policing have been historically and systematically excluded from the resources and no longer acceptable. The safest neighborhoods do not have more police, they have more resources. They have better access to housing, fully funded schools, better infrastructure, health care, and they do not fear being criminalized by impoverished. Thank you.
Sorry, we're interrupted with the mic. That's okay. Good evening. I'm John Costello, and I'm president of the Friends of the San Antonio Public Library. The Friends are a membership organization that supports the library through fundraising of book sales so we can add additional programs for our children and to support our staff and provide training opportunities for them that they would not otherwise receive. I'm here to speak in support of the three issues that have been proposed by the city and recommended to this committee, and also to encourage the adoption of the two other projects that we have presented to you tonight. First, with respect to the Carver branch, this is a revolutionary program because this is creating an area library. It's something that's never been done. It will make it the largest branch among all of our libraries. So it's important to do this because it's going to serve a wonderful community there on the east side. And I know we have some other representatives from the Carver here tonight. Additionally, the two new programs that we have been talking about tonight are also vital because they will play a unique role for their community. The first is being the one for the Bazan branch. This library, as you have seen, is clearly outdated and needs serious renovation and to be brought up to speed. One of the most important parts of this bond request for the Bazan branch is that we're going to create a state-of-the-art technology center. As we all know, the importance technology plays in educating our youth and our communities. So this is clearly needed there. And as we said, it's been last renovated in 2007. Additionally, the last program we are asking you to add to the bond proposal is what is called an Express Plus. This is a unique opportunity because it takes an existing city structure and we put in a small library. It's not requiring the building of a new library. We're using an existing facility. So this Express Place at the Port SA will fill in a gap of service that is missing in District 4. And it's a very cost-effective alternative as opposed to creating a new library. So I urge the committee to fully adopt the 3 recommended projects and to add the 2 additional projects for the library. Thank you very much.
Good evening. I'm Denise Liedke with the San Antonio Public Library Foundation. I'm a San Antonio native and of District 9. Libraries serve every portion of our population. Babies and parents bond through the enjoyment of books and naturally develop early literacy skills through this interaction and exposure to literacy-rich experiences. This is closely linked to the baby's early experiences with books and stories. Our libraries provides just such a wealth of resources and opportunities, helping San Antonio's children discover the wonders of the written word. Our libraries provide a place of safety for teens, physically and intellectually. Special teen rooms allow access to equipment that parents and schools are often unable to provide. Seniors stay connected and engage with free computers and library programs that teach how to use them. What an intellectual feast our libraries provide. Our libraries provide so much to our city, and we are asking for them to do more. We need our libraries to combat illiteracy and disinterest. We need strong, vibrant libraries and programming to continue to spark exploration, creativity, and community. I'm asking that you continue these good works. Repair and renew our libraries and the services that they can offer. I'm asking that you fully and completely fund the 2022 library bond projects as presented, as well as the Bazan Library Transformation Project and the Port SA Lackland Express Plus. Thank you so much.
Good evening. My name is Catherine B., and I'm a resident of District 2. A member and the current president of the Carver Library Friends Group, which is a group of volunteers who support the Carver, and I'm here to advocate for the Carver Library. I was born in this beautiful city and was fortunate to be employed by the city of San Antonio for 35 years, retiring in 2013. The Carver Library has always been a part of my life, starting with the Hackberry Street location. Carver is and has been a great staple of the San Antonio community for over 90 years. Fellow Carver Friends Group member Monica Bright on the last meeting has already told you of the many activities hosted at the Carver Library. The building is in dire need of a renovation. Not long ago, while visiting the library after a rain, there were buckets in the meeting room for leaks in the roof, and the teen area was completely unusable due to water coming into the building. We want to continue what those before us envisioned when the Carver Library began in 1930, and to be a state-of-the-art facility with room to grow for our citizens can gather and enrich their lives. Our youth is depending on us, and we are obligated to them to do our best. We understand funds are limited, but we also request that we not be left off of this bond. Thank you for your time and for all that you do. I'll yield the rest of my time to Ms. Maria Green.
If we could have the next 5.
Yes, the next 5 will be Jimmy Drennan, Stephen Heimer, Susan Chas, Javier Patlan, and Sarah Diaz.
Good evening. My name is Maria Stevenson Green. I'm a resident of District 2. I'm a life member of the Friends of the San Antonio Public Library, but I'm here tonight to endorse my special library, the Carver. The Carver is truly vintage. It started in the 1900s, and the current building is vintage because it's from 1973. And now we are in a critical space squeeze. Our annual book festival has experienced growth so extraordinary that now we have to rent space to accommodate the attendance in February. We know you members of the District Bond Committee are visionaries. Please help us address equity and inclusion by expanding the area for children and teens to savor books so that for reading and education, we have the proper setting to get them hooked. 10,000 square feet of additional space will enable the staff to embrace requests for community meetings and study rooms with a smile of grace. You were placed on this committee because you earned community respect. We sincerely ask you, Bond Committee members, to step forward and protect the identified need for Carver Library's transformation so that we have a facility meeting the needs of our district's growing population. We respectfully request that it be your determination to provide to the Carver Branch Library funding for its complete designated bond allocation. We thank you for your sacrifice of time and your dedication in our behalf.
Good evening. I'm Father Jimmy David Drennan. I'm the pastor of St. Margaret Mary Catholic Church and a member of COPS Metro Alliance. And I'm asking for a group time and ask the people with me to please stand and be recognized. I represent 3,000 families at St. Margaret Mary's, and I represent COPS Metro Alliance, a grassroots organization that covers the entire city of San Antonio. We are very much in support of the continued support to our fire department, to our library system, and we thank you very much for the time that you are giving on this committee to help support that. I'm here very specifically to speak to you about the addition of a San Antonio police substation in District 3 on the southeast side of San Antonio. For those of y'all who I've not had the opportunity to meet, I am a retired San Antonio police officer. I joined the police department when this police department was centralized at 214 West Nueva. I worked in the mid-'80s all the way through the early '90s in the decentralization of the police department, and can tell you very clearly that the decentralization of the police department and the opening up of the substations has proven to be one of the most effective things that our city has done. It has helped establish, build, and cultivate relationships between the police department and public service organizations and the community of San Antonio. It has also helped create an incredible response time, providing greater safety and security to the people of our community. In representing the southeast side of San Antonio, District 3, I want to point out that we are the largest district in the city of San Antonio by landmass. We are growing exponentially each and every day, and the need for a police substation on the southeast side of San Antonio is essential. We know it's already on the proposed bond, but we also know that originally there was a price tag of $25 million attached to it, and that has been since reduced to $19 million. I know how much it costs to build and sustain a police substation. We are asking that you continually look at rebuilding those funds to have a $25 million price tag for the southeast side substation. We want this to be something that will help provide for the safety and security of the future of the southeast side. With me this evening, I want to tell you, is an incredible family. 4 years ago, I baptized a 12-year-old boy in our community. He was murdered on October 17th in the early morning hours. And in the very place that I baptized him, I buried him. And I was with his aunt and his grandparents and his friends. Public safety is one of the most important things you will provide to the people of this city. We want to help support our police department, and we want our law enforcement agencies to cultivate the relationships and sustain the relationships that will provide for the safety of our people. I ask that you not only support the $19 million, but increase it to the $25 million. We do not have the land allocated yet. And while I know the last substation may have cost 19, we know the next one will cost more. I ask that you focus your hearts and your souls in providing for the public safety of our community, because this young man, Anthony Vic Rodriguez, is one of many people on our east side, our south side, and our southeast side, our west side, across this city, whose voices need to be heard even if they are calling out from heaven. I ask that you please help support this initiative and take no more funding from what is essential on the southeast side of San Antonio. And just so you know, I know how the system works. By building this substation, we will alleviate the amount of work being done from the south side substation, the east side substation, and the downtown station. I thank you for your support, and thank you for your time here and listening to me. God bless you.
Good evening. My name is Steve Heimer. I'm the president of the San Antonio Professional Firefighters Association, Local 624. Last time I talked to you about some of the conditions my brother and sister firefighters live in while at work for the city of San Antonio. I wanted to talk tonight about the needs and numbers. Currently, the San Antonio Fire Department and the city of San Antonio work off the last assessment performed on fire stations, which was completed in 2003. Do you remember what you were doing 18 years ago? I do. I was in the process to become a firefighter for San Antonio. We currently are in need of replacing 3 to 5 stations as of today, 10s, 33s, 21s, 31s, with fire stations 53s and 54s still in temporary trailers for years to come. It takes 5 to 10 years after approval for some of the projects to be completed. The current maintenance line is $600,000 a year for maintenance on 59 facilities in San Antonio. This has not changed even with the addition of several more stations. It is constantly over $500,000 for basic repairs and upkeeps. When a station requires large needs, like Fire Station 39, who just had pipes replaced at a cost of $300,000, you can see that $5,000 left for each of the other 58 facilities doesn't go very far. If you remember, I talked about sewage that backs up into Firehouse 37. Well, that's been pushed under a deferred maintenance program to be looked at in 2027. Right now, fire stations are in need of some large projects being pushed that can't simply be kicked down the road to address the basic infrastructure. Here are a few examples. Fire Station 36 needs a new driveway and parking lot, $300,000 pushed to 2025. Fire Station 14 pavement and concrete, $165,000 pushed to 2025. Fire Station 37 plumbing, $320,000 pushed to 2027. Fire Station 14, 17, 21, 22, 26, 29 pavement and concrete, $318,000 pushed to 2026, 2027. AC replacements for multiple locations over $200,000. We need funding to address these needs today, not years down the road. This project will serve this community for years to come. Firefighters need your assistance, like how we step up every time there is a need. Fires, medical, hazmat rescue,
you very
COVID,
much, sir.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Susanna, and I'm a resident of District 5. I'm here today because I'm concerned about my tax dollars going to the Texas Biomedical Research Institute. I specifically want to address the committee about concerns I have about Texas Biomed's misleading and untruthful responses to you
response memo number 3, following public comments made during November 18th committee meeting. When justifying their ask for San Antonio dollars, Texas Biomed said, quote, "Grants and contracts pay mostly for the direct costs of science, the test tubes and materials, rather than indirect cost, the electricity, HVAC, electrical power, and other campus upgrades. This is not the case. A simple search in the National Institute of Health database shows that Texas Biomed, largest active grant, received nearly $3.5 million for indirect costs this year, 45% of the total grant. According to Texas Biomed's report to NIH, this core grant in 2019 specifically paid for several infrastructures improvements, including boiler replacements, installing a cage washer, and updating marmoset cages. Their second and third grants also received 45% of the total funding towards indirect costs specifically. Another misleading response from the Texas Biomed was their defense of the $25,000 fine from the USDA. They said in part, "It is important to point out that the 2009 and 2000 incidents happened more than a decade ago. And all the animal enclosures have been updated. However, they've continued to have critical violations of the Federal Animal Welfare Act due to enclosure issues in the years since."
Thank you very
In
much.
2019, please don't give the corporation with a history of animal abuse our tax dollars.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Javier Patlan, and I'm the Legislative Director for the San Antonio Professional Firefighters Association. And also, I'm a captain with 22 years in the San Antonio Fire Department on the city's west side. I'm here today to ask for your help to reallocate the 2022 bond funds towards replacing or renovating our deteriorating fire stations. Foundation problems, mold, sewage backups, rat infestations, and outdated facilities that do not properly accommodate our female firefighters. These are the conditions that our men and women of the San Antonio Fire Department work in every shift at fire stations 10, 33, 21, and 37. One station specifically, Station 33, is dealing with these issues all at once. These stations have been needing significant repairs for some time now and can no longer wait for their turn on the replacement schedule in another 5 years. These stations range in age between 50 and 100 years old and weren't built to sustain the amount of wear and tear it receives from housing the bigger and heavier apparatus, as well as the day-to-day activity of our firefighters in a 24-hour period. These stations are our homes where we spend an average of 1/3 of our careers working and living, and it's time we start reinvesting in them. As firefighters, we normally are the ones our citizens call whenever they need help. Right now, our firefighters need yours. Please consider adjusting the focus of this bond money to these much-needed resources. Thank you.
John on deck is going to be Agapita Jaramillo, Selena Montoya, Jessica Rivera, Mariah Smith, and Roman Peña.
Okay, thank you. Hello, my name is Sarah Diaz, and I live in District 5. I'm a member of the Westwood Square Neighborhood Association. I'm here in support of the $5.2 million for our historic Las Palmas branch library. In addition, I am requesting that the fire station number 33 be added back into the 2022 bond for a replacement for the cost of $12 million. Our historic Las Palmas library is the only library that is closest to my home. The Las Palmas library is in need of improvements, and we want our neighborhood improvements. Oh goodness. There's 3 phases to this library that I think that are very enriching to our community. And I'm hoping that all 3 phases will move forward. If I could find it. Okay. I am so sorry.
You're okay. I got it. Okay,
My fight has always been for our children and for our disabled, and our community lacks that. There's a lot of places, like I heard for Ella Austin Community Center, Good Samaritan Center, And we have nothing like this in our community. The YMCA that we have needs improvements. I don't even use our local YMCA. I go to Rinneman, Petranco, Reese, everywhere else but in my neighborhood because they look so bad. My kids don't even want to walk into these facilities. And if you tour these facilities, you would know what I am talking about. Also, the cleanliness of the COVID, the Delta, these are the things that bring us together. And if we can continue to cleanse these areas, it would be nice for our District 5 area. The issue of fire station number 33, if that money was taken away in 2017, I really would like for it to be put back.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
It's okay, I got it, I found it.
Good evening, committee. My name is Agapita Jaramillo, a District 5 community member. I am requesting $12 million for replacement of Fire Station 33 to be added to the 2022 bond for the reasons being, and I believe you have some photos of the station. Sewer lines backs up into the showers. Firefighters are unable to take showers to decontaminate after COVID-19 exposures and structure fires. Sewer lines back up into the bay floors, potentially contaminating fire gear and other equipment. Kitchen stove leaks gas and carbon monoxide. There are serious rodent infestation throughout the firehouse. There is mold in ceilings and AC vents. There are no separate restroom or shower for females. The female bathroom is located outside in the bay. Heaters in the bay do not even work. Fire station backup generator does not work and has not worked for decades. This is just a short list. There are many other problems at Fire Station 33. This is unacceptable for working and living conditions for these committed firefighters that serve our community. I urge the committee to please consider this request. And remember, in closing, these are individuals that save our lives. Thank you for your support.
Good evening, and thank you to the committee for your work here and allotting extra time for us at the community this evening. My name is Selena Montoya, and I'm a lifelong San Antonian, lover of libraries, and a mother of 3 young children, ages 10, 7, and 7 months, who have all started their own love affair with libraries and books at our local branch, Landin Library. I'm here as a member of the San Antonio Public Library Foundation and in support of the library trustees and staff. I thank them for their tireless efforts to bring greater equity and accessibility to all of San Antonio. And I encourage you to consider extending support to our libraries. I support the staff recommendations to fully fund the transformation at Bazan Branch and the Express Library at Port SA. This will bring a focused, smaller outlet offering basic library services to a growing community. I also encourage adding support for necessary facility improvements to our notable Central Library, the innovative transformation and expansion of the historic Carver Branch, and the much-needed improvements to Las Palmas. Altogether, these improvements would total just over $33 million. You've already heard some of the impressive numbers about library services and their extensive use, from the Bible to TikTok. So I'll leave you with this quote from author and astronomer Carl Sagan. I think the health of our civilization, the depth of our awareness about the underpinnings of our culture, and our concern for the future can all be tested by how well we support our libraries. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jessica Rivera. I'm the Director of Development for the San Antonio Public Library Foundation, and I am here in support of the 2022 Library Bond Project. San Antonio's libraries are integral to our city's health and literacy goals. San Antonio has one of the lowest literacy rates in the state of Texas. About 25% of San Antonians are functionally illiterate, which means they are unable to read at a 5th grade level. The inability to read and comprehend the written word comes with a high economic impact, increased unemployment, low wages, and even poor health care, with greater demand for social services. We need to bring our library and our library services where the need is the greatest. There are large areas of our population that are underserved and desperately need the books, programming, and the community access and services that our libraries can uniquely provide.
Our existing libraries are also in great need of improvements from physical and structural repair and enhancements to enhance facilities that will allow our communities to continue to gather and learn. We cannot be a great city when we do not serve all of our citizens. I fully support funding all of the proposed 2022 library bond projects, as well as the Bassam Branch Library Transformation and Port San Antonio Lackland Air Force Base Express Plus outlet. And I'm asking you to fully support these projects as well. Thank you.
So much. Good job.
And then I have a handout.
I got you. I got you.
Good evening, Bond Committee members. My name is Mariah Smith. I'm 19 years old, and I'm a citizen of San Antonio District 6. I'm back again tonight to continue to express my opposition to the proposed $11 million in funding for the private organization Texas Biomedical Research Institute. In the last community meeting, Texas Biomed asserted that they had received stellar remarks from the USDA since their $25,000 fine in 2012. This couldn't be farther from the truth. Since 2014, Texas Biomed has received 30 non-compliant items during USDA inspections of their research and breeding programs and facilities, indicating a continued lack of care and prioritization of animal welfare at their facility. Disturbing violations of animal welfare standards have included failing to properly document animals used in experimentation that had accompanying pain and were not given pain relief, reports of dead animals that were emancipated and had days-old injuries but had never received veterinary care, failure of staff to properly handle animals while being moved or safely maintaining enclosures, resulting in injury and death to multiple animals, including the death of an infant baboon, and reports of animals used during testing that experienced unrelieved pain and distress prior to euthanasia. Nothing about these USDA reports are in line with Texas Biomed's previous assertion that they considered the animals that they test on to be the real heroes, and today when that young woman said their lifeline. Texas Biomed doesn't even prioritize their existing millions of dollars of funding on providing acceptable animal welfare standards of care. The city of San Antonio should not be subsidizing the kind of cruelty inherent in animal testing like what goes on at Texas Biomed. To conclude, I've listened to other community members discuss the amazing projects being considered by this committee, and it's clear that there are many options for funding projects that better reflect the values and ethics of our city.
Thank you,
and that
Ms. Smith.
actually serve San Antonio residents. For all the reasons, I respectfully
John,
request that you vote
the-
against the funding proposal
Those
for Texas
individuals
Biomed.
on deck are going to be Joanne Harris, Kelly Walls, Shannon St. Cyr, Sonia St. Cyr, and Galileo Gonzalez. I believe John Boyd will be speaking with Roman Peña.
Yes, sir, they're both here.
Good evening, committee members and ladies and gentlemen. My name is John Boyd, and I was not born here in San Antonio, but I got here as soon as I could. I got here in 1999, and I'm here to talk about the homeless. When I first heard about Haven for Hope, I heard that it was such a good program that people from out of state were coming here to get those homeless services, but it's not true. People have to sleep, if they're not sober, they have to sleep under a tarp on a mat. And it's not human treatment. So we're here to talk about the homeless. The Advocate Social Services, which I'm a member of the executive committee, and the Texas LULAC Housing Council proposes temporary housing containers for the homeless that are prefabricated and can be built and completed very quickly. One shipping container has 2 units, each with a small kitchen, bathroom, and bedroom area in a studio configuration. The 2 units are divided by a breezeway in a 63-foot long shipping container. What I like about this design is that it's integral. All plumbing and electricity are included in the design. The shipping container home is easily mounted on a pier and beam system. Since 1980, the mission of Advocate Social Services, nonprofit organization, has been to educate qualified individuals of public benefit that they may be entitled to. We accomplish this by working with local, city, state, and federal agencies for the purpose of outreach and verification work. Recently, we focused mainly on low-income families and at-risk youth. Services would include financial literacy, budgeting, credit counseling, housing, employment and training, civic participation, civic rights, economic empowerment, educational, health, immigration, public service, and technology. Another service provided would be outreach and eligibility determination, support to help qualified persons and families for the Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program so that they can be eligible for food stamps. So these families and their
Mr.
children won't
Peña.
go hungry.
Thank you, Mr. Peña. I believe John Boyd is with you. He'll be speaking. Mr. Boyd, are you speaking next, or are you deferring your time to Mr. Peña?
Yeah, I'm Mr. Boyd.
Oh, you're
We're
Mr.
here
Boyd.
as a group.
Okay, got it.
We're here as a group.
Okay.
So I'm almost finished. Yeah. So LULAC was founded in 1929. LULAC and Advocate Social Services.
I'm sorry,
are
Mr. Peña. I'm a little lost. I apologize. So are you speaking on behalf of a group or as an individual?
Yes, my name is John Boyd. This is
Mr. Boyd.
Ramon Peña.
Okay.
Yes, we are talking as a group.
You're speaking on behalf of a group, and that group is LULAC. In the
LULAC and Advocate Social Services.
Okay, and the project you are petitioning, talking for is which project?
Advocate Social Services is proposing a housing project for the homeless.
Okay, is this the packet that we're getting right now? Okay, do you have a packet or a dollar amount?
I do have a packet. For you, but I didn't bring 30.
Okay, so Mr. Boyd, you've exceeded your time.
I understood that we had 5 minutes for a group.
No, sir. Each individual has 2 minutes.
No, we're talking as a group.
We're not an individual, we're a group.
Okay, you'll have a grand total of 5 minutes.
Thank you.
Starting from when I interrupted you, you're not going to, this doesn't count as your time.
Thank you very much.
So you'll have 3 more minutes.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Boyd.
Now, LULAC supports an increase in the nation's stock of temporary housing to end homelessness. Now, the social impact of helping homeless obtain housing, realizing the positive implications such as stability, increasing educational attainment, creating safe neighborhoods, turning previously vacant properties into homeless villages. Case managers offer residents for help from anything from drug and alcohol abuse to mental health issues to navigate the complexities of job applications, health insurance, and more. Now we're asking for $7 million to house 140 homeless individuals and families. We're going to use this design for our homeless project, Housing First, which provides housing regardless of circumstance. Recipients do not have to be sober to receive housing. This is a federal mandate that is being handed down by the United States Interagency Council on Homelessness. This is the only agency at the federal level with the sole responsibility of ending homelessness. It works across 19 federal agencies and departments and with partners in both public and private sectors to improve federal spending outcomes for homelessness. We are currently looking to surplus land on Port San Antonio and Bexar County. Los Angeles used a similar design when the beaches were filled with homelessness in Santa Monica. Tourists could not reach the beach because the homeless had set up a tent city and blocking access to tourists. Currently, we have the same situation in San Antonio. Over 100 homeless can be seen on Commerce and Buena Vista between IH-35 downtown and South Zasamora. They are loitering, creating havoc, doing drugs in public, and exposing themselves to passerbys. Haven for Hope in San Antonio is abiding by federal guidelines, but anyone who is not sober must sleep under a tarp on an exercise mattress. We plan to provide the homeless with tiny homes to live in. Housing first and available counseling come hand in hand, but are not prerequisite to get the housing in this program. Advocate Social Services qualifies for the housing component of the city bond to make Housing First work. This can be accomplished in 90 days. We need $7 million for infrastructure and construction of 70 turnkey units for 140 individual and families. I want to thank you very much for listening.
Do we have any more time left?
Yes.
Do we have time left or?
It's still green.
Still
Yes,
green?
there's time left and you may speak.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes, my name is Roman Peña, and I am the Texas chairman for LULAC Housing. Together, we have joined hands with the advocates here in San Antonio, and we have proposed to build a a complex to support the homeless. Now, you know that I've been here hearing a lot of requests for a lot of funds that probably they're more than, oh, okay. So that we are
That's-
going to see if we can support what John just proposed.
Okay, and so just to be clear, Mr. Boyd and Mr. Pena, it is for Advocate Social Services requesting $7 million. Thank you.
Yes,
We
so
got-
we'd like to be added to the list for the bond, please.
Got it. Thank you, Mr. Boyd. Thank you, Mr. Pena. Joanne Harris.
Good evening. I am Joanne Harris, and I represent District 2, and I'm a member of the San Antonio Public Library Board of Trustees for the District 2. I'm here to primarily ask for your support for the library projects, our 3 main projects to be fully funded, which that is Central Library, the Carver Branch Library, and Los Palmas Branch, and also for consideration for the Bazaar Branch Library, and also that we would have an Express Plus outlet. I would like to also, I've listened to everything everyone said. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about something that that's a little different in that with the Carver Branch Library, it would be considered an aerial library. And that would be the first one in San Antonio. The Carver Library will expand by double its size. It will also, it's in great need for children's area. We have a small children's area, but it would be expanded. It would expand the teen area also, and also the computer area. They would also have a lot of community areas. They would have study rooms for the students and everything. And one of the other persons from the Carver Library talked about how they have to now pay to have events. And it's our 3rd African American Book Festival. And we are having to pay to go to the Second Baptist area, where the last 2 years it just got too much. And, okay,
Thank you very much.
My name is Kelly Walls, and I'm a resident in District 1. I oppose allocating bond money to Texas Biomed and Canines for Warriors. Per the December 8 memo distributed to this committee, Texas Biomed states the only animals retired from research are chimpanzees. This means all other animals are killed. This will include the 159 baboons who were callously left to suffer severe frostbite in the February storm, and as a result of that cruelty, endured painful amputations. Euthanasia methods at research institutes can include cervical dislocation, exsanguination, or decapitation. I am a disabled veteran and dog rescuer. I appreciate the mission of Canines for Warriors. However, they have a brand new facility that just opened in September of this year. Why should they receive millions for another facility while our firefighters live in unsafe conditions? Our firefighters, some of whom are veterans, provide vital services that have a far greater impact on our community than the 5 Bexar County veterans that Canines said would benefit from their $2.2 million expansion. Both organizations have robust fundraising platforms and lobbyists. Texas Biomed has over $141 million in assets, and Canines has over $31 million in assets. Please reallocate the Texas Biomed and Canines proposed bond funding and instead provide $12 million to build 1 additional fire station. Also provide $1 million to the Meals on Wheels expansion. Thank you for your time.
Hi, my name is Shannon St. Cyr. I was born, raised, and currently reside in District 1. I'm here to oppose allocating bond money to Texas Biomed and Canines for Warriors. We should not be providing millions to an outside organization like Canines for Warriors, who has other funding sources. They have 1,000 applications, but only 27 of those 1,000 are for Texas, and only 5 of those were for Bexar County. Additionally, they have a brand new building from a $2 million grant from Petco Love that is less than 12 weeks old. It seems our money could be better spent. In the ARPA meetings, infrastructure was in the top 3 concerns in every single district. Hearing that our fire stations are in such a state of disrepair should be alarming. Rats, backed up sewage, and a lack of adequate showers to wash off carcinogens are critical needs. I'm asking that instead of a shiny new facility for Canines for Warriors or repairing Texas Biomed's frozen pipes, that you consider allocating those funds towards San Antonio Fire Department for a new fire station and much needed renovations at the older fire stations. Thank you.
My name is Sonia St. Cyr, and I'm a resident of District 1. I oppose allocating bond money to Texas Biomed and Canines for Warriors. It is very disheartening for me to learn that some of our firefighters are living in such horrid conditions. Rats falling from ceilings as they sleep. Can you imagine waking up to that and still being asked to serve your city? They have exposure to rats, structural issues in older stations often subject firefighters to raw sewage backup. And some female firefighters only have access to a toilet in an unheated closet, yet unselfishly serve our city. Our brave firefighters deserve more, and you should not be providing millions to outside organizations that have adequate funding sources. In lieu of funding ill-defined renovations and expansion for Texas Biomed and their cruel animal research, or another new building for Canines for Warriors, please provide the $12 million to the firefighters for new buildings and renovations, and also to Meals on Wheels. Thank you.
Thank you. The next 5 would be John Boyd,
Who's already gone, so next.
Okay.
Yeah.
Diana Blinn, Rachel Gullion, Lario De Leon, Brian Rousset, and then I'll give you the last one, Frank Bellano.
All right, hello, good evening. My name is Galileo Gonzalez, and I am a resident in District 3. I'm here tonight to ask that the committee remove the police substation from recommendation. I'd like to talk specifically about Texas House Bill 1900 and Texas Senate Bill 23. Once a municipality increases their annual police budget, that amount cannot be reduced without penalization. The impact an additional substation would have on our future annual budgets would guarantee that the budget for SAPD will increase and then cannot be reduced without holding an election. Both laws are available online via the Texas Legislature's website, and I encourage that this committee review them. On the November 18th memo from the city manager's office, it's noted that the new substation would also house the K-9 unit, and I was wondering why the training academy wasn't considered as a location for them. The training academy is in District 3 and sits on 165 acres of land. I bring this up because we ask so many other departments in this city to do with what they have. Schools put children in portables. The fire department has stations that don't have facilities for the female firefighters. Libraries are also asking in need of major repairs. And yet it seems like SAPD gets everything they ask for. I was disappointed, but not surprised, to see that the council member from District 3 and her representatives on this committee have pushed for this item despite the ongoing conversation we as a country are having about the state of policing in the United States and in this city. Like her sister before her, the council member seems to believe that the police are the answer to every problem. Does she honestly believe that districts that happen to have a substation do not have crime? Every district has its problems, but I would like to I would like to remind our elected officials that those you are seeking to criminalize are also your constituents. They deserve the safety of housing, education, healthcare, and social support. Not everyone in District 3 is in support of a new substation, and the community in District 3 is more than the folks who are members of neighborhood associations. Thank you for your time.
Hi, my name is Dr. Diana Blinn, and on behalf of the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, I'm asking you to reject the bond request for the Texas Biomed. I've got something just to pass out. If you could just, thank you very much. As a San Antonio resident, I know they want to expand. Oh, sorry. Just got tired. Can you hear me now? Okay. As a San Antonio resident, I don't want my tax money to be used for this. I know they're saying they want to expand the facility, but do you understand that expanding the facility is actually breeding monkeys and breeding these primates? It's not as easy as it looks. 1 year from now, you're going to have an expanded facility and a lot more primates. You're going to have worse conditions, and they need your help because you'll be backing up something that's not really necessarily ethical and not really clean. 2 years from now, you're going to have a super duper lab with, I don't know how many primates, but I'm pretty sure it's easy to breed them. Just watch out before you give them money. They're not looking for exactly money. They're looking for your support so they can say, well, you guys help them out. City Council approved of it. So thank you so much, and I really appreciate it. Just think about it and read that pamphlet.
My name is Rachel Guillen, and I'm the Academic Dean of Science at Highlands High School. I've been a teacher with San Antonio ISD for 7 years. I'm a veteran teacher of about 14. I'm here to speak in support of Texas Biomed. As many of you may not know, they support the local education system here in San Antonio. Hundreds, literally hundreds of my students have benefited from programs through Texas Biomed. They have been one of the few supporters of our local science fairs and our area science fairs. When we reach out and say, hey, we need to find people to support our low socioeconomic kids, to support our kids of color, to support our girls at STEM, they are one of our few supporters. They send dozens and dozens and dozens of scientists, of medical doctors to support our students. As a result, we have had students and SAISD go on to state and international science fair competitions. We have had students whose parents didn't graduate high school go on to Harvard, go on to Stanford to study science, to study medicine. Some of them have gone on and gotten their degree and come back to San Antonio to become teachers of science. Many of you may have your own opinion about the organization, but as a teacher, I can tell you that they do support education here in San Antonio, and they provide an opportunity for students and teachers here to go and tour the facilities, to speak with scientists, and have an opportunity to discuss research, scientific inquiry, and to tour the lab facilities, things that these kids would never have an opportunity to do unless they actually were in a top-tier university. For our low socioeconomic kids, this would not be an option. Thank you.
My name is Lauro de Leon, and I represent District 6, and I'm also affiliated with Prosperous West and the WDC. I know I'm running behind the bus because they always do that to the part of the neighborhood I come from. Our neighborhood, which is the Commerce, Enrique Barrera Parkway, in infrastructure, education, density, and wealth, is rated compared to all the city, it's rated 0.01, not even one. So to mention that the 281 corridor is graded at 70%. So what I'm here to do is ask you for a consideration for the library on Enrique Barrera. And the reason that I'm doing this is because it takes 45 minutes to get to the Las Palmas Library. And I also support the Las Palmas Library. But I want you to know that my community is a working community, and it takes 2 people to sustain a family. And in the morning, where I live, the only car that's left in the neighborhood is my car because I can't drive anymore. So that's the rest of the people that go out and work.
Thank
They
you
only
very
have one
much.
car. So thank you.
Thank
The next thing is the.
Thank you, Mr. De Leon. Thank you, sir.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Brian Rosette, and tonight I'll be representing Life Worth Finding Empowerment Center, which is located in District 2. There are some packets that are coming around for your consideration. Life Worth Finding was established in 2004 and is a 501c3 faith-based community-centered organization which is focused on and actively providing mentorship programs, career development services, academic enrichment, family empowerment, and also youth impact programs. We also provide case management, which helps us to provide basic needs and resources for families within the community. The building that we operate out of requires some repairs and also some classroom modifications. And these repairs will allow us to continue to provide the training and the resources that we already provide, and also allow us the opportunity to add some additional community initiatives that will help also with our community. Life Worth Finding has been able to raise $13,944 on our own, and we're asking for $25,000 to help complete this project. We thank you for this time and also for your consideration.
Thank you. My name is Frank Villani from the Magic Theater, and I wanted to come to explain why the $2.75 million that the city staff has recommended are so vital. In this book, which we can give you in flash drives if you want, I know it is over 125 pages of information about what the building needs and has been on. The building was built as Beethoven Hall in 1895. And then in 1968 with Hemisphere, a temporary building was added to the back of it. We have issues with the structure itself needing to be repointed. The roof needs to be redone. The air conditioning system has not been replaced since 1968. And we've had multiple problems with accessibility. We have begun to address everything. We've put over $350,000 in private donations into making sure we now have accessible bathrooms in the front, but we have issues in the back for our performers. We now have a lift to get people to the stage, but people still have to access the outside of the building if they want to use the restroom. We have ideas. What we want is to make a city building, which is the dignity that this city needs for every patron who goes through. Over 100,000 people come through a year. 70,000 or more of them are children, most from Title I schools. This may be their only opportunity, and we want to make sure that that opportunity that they have is world class. Thank you very much. If you need any information, we can give zip drives. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That should conclude our portion of the public comment. Is there anyone that believes that they signed up that was not called? You were signed up? And your name, sir? If you could remove your mask. Nathan, let's go.
Hi, my name's Nathan. I am a resident of District 4. I am speaking against Texas Biomedical Research Institute. I just want to read you guys something very interesting. More recent analysis suggests that despite efforts to improve predictability of animal testing, the failure rate has actually increased and is now closer to 96%. A 96% failure rate into producing vaccines and medicines to improve human life. What a horrible investment to put $11 million to Texas Biomedical Research Institute with a failure rate of 96%. That is a horrible investment in any type of standards. So please consider not doing that. Thank you.
Thank you, Nathan. Okay, now that concludes our portion of the meeting of public comments. We are slightly after 8 o'clock, but before we talk about what's going to happen next, I'd like to thank all the San Antonians that have come out this evening, took time to get parking. And to speak in favor and or against and or your concerns. It is greatly, greatly appreciated on behalf of all of us on the committee and valued to hear your opinions. I love the way Dwayne has said it many times that there's so much need out there. I think what we heard is we've heard 5 additional organizations asking for money. All presentations will be uploaded to the website. You've received the hard copies today. All support letters and documentation will be uploaded. Is that correct, John? Everything will be uploaded to the site for public viewing. But something that's just kind of mind-boggling of what we heard, if asking for support and or against, I'm just going to add up just the total cumulative of the support. We've been asked to consider an additional $83.4 million. $83.4 million. We've been allocated $134 million. So, Dwayne and I were on a call earlier this week with the other co-chairs and tri-chairs and the mayor. And the mayor reminded us about no matter what we do, it is truly valued the input and the time that the committee has put in. So those that were able to break away for a tour last Saturday, I want to thank you. I want to thank all the staff that was there to help put this together, that tour, as well as the staff that's here tonight to help facilitate this evening. I say that now because we end quickly and I never get to thank them. And not just the staff from the various departments, but really the convention center staff that is going to be here, clean up afterwards and get ready. You see, we got a great convention in town right now. But one of the other things that the mayor said is your time extremely valuable and appreciative. The projects you have, if there are close projects, close second, that may not make the list, council wants to know about them because there are other opportunities, maybe not this year, maybe next year, ways that they can figure out. We have heard from the community. I know that you are receiving calls because I'm receiving calls about important projects for San Antonio. We want to be able to, next week, make a recommendation of not just $134 million, but about priorities that we have heard as advocates and ambassadors for our city about projects and infrastructure that are important to our city so that city council is aware of the work that we've done and what's important to us. Dwayne and I have spoken. It is after 8 o'clock. What we'd like to do is offer 2 to 3 minutes again for each district to get together, strategize, confirm your clarifying questions or comments. We'll start with District 4. We're going to make our way around the table, and every district will be heard tonight. If anybody has debates that or would like to take another route, we'll open it up for 1 second. Or Dwayne, what do we want to say? We want every district to be heard. All right, 2-3 minutes, have a discussion, try to select one spokesperson for the group. Okay. I'm going to take a guess that there's going to be some questions regarding the process of next week. So I'd like to ask our fearless city assistant manager to share with us. Dwayne and I were made privy of this, but I think we butchered it. We tried to explain it. So Maria, if you could give us a little insight background of what the other committees are doing.
Sure. So as all of you know, at the next meeting, we're going to be asking you for your support and your recommendations for the projects that you have been presented during this process. So what the other committees have done in preparation for that last meeting is that if there are any motions that the committee would like to consider, that those ideas be sent to the co-chairs. So staff, we can help them start formulating those motions so we are ready when we come for the fourth meeting. Now, as you know, we have talked through this process that the committee may choose to add projects that are not included in the recommended list for consideration if there's savings within this proposition, or as the co-chair mentioned, that perhaps there's other funding available that may come from the federal government, for example, that the city council would have recommendations for projects from all of the committees. So that's one option. Also, there are changes within the projects that you have heard. if the projects that you would like to add to or reduce from the funding that is being recommended, those actions and those motions will be considered at the fourth meeting. So if you have any ideas of that sort, we would encourage you to share those with the co-chairs so we can begin preparing those motions and be ready for our fourth meeting.
Thank you, Maria. Okay, so this is just a friendly reminder. This is, I can only imagine, still a lot more clarifying questions, comments, and clarifying comments and questions that need to go around. But to strongly encourage, this is not the meeting for motions. This is not the meeting for motions. Let's continue to ask questions. We're up to memo number 6. There's several of them, several pages. Please continue to read through those as they're offered to you. But I think I said District 4 we're going to start with. We're going to start with District 5, who's back here. Ms. Flores, you and your team? You and your district. And I apologize. We're not going to give anybody a time limit. It's going to be set at 3 minutes. Do your best to observe it. It's already after 8:15, and let's all be heard.
Thank you. Thank you. We are promoting the idea or the San Antonio Fire Department Station number 33. And why is that? Bond dollars are limited and should focus on the immediate needs of local residents. To District 5, happy and healthy firefighters who have the proper infrastructure to respond to accidents and fires is an immediate need and a top priority. There are existing operational and facilities challenges which impact firefighters' quality of life, as well as other issues that inhibit their ability to perform their duties. Station 33 has foundation issues, living quarters flood during rain, the HVAC system doesn't work, and the electrical system frequently overloads. Lack of private bathroom facilities for females, lack of private and quiet sleeping quarters for the firefighters and EMS technicians. Kitchen and dining areas are too small for the number of people at that station, a lack of adequate personnel parking, and no visitor parking. This station was built 50 years ago in 1972 and is only 6,833 square feet. Today, the fire department estimates they need about 16,000 square feet to meet current and future needs. If bond funding is secured in this cycle, then the issues I just listed would be addressed, and there would be funds to potentially acquire the property for sale next door at 2015 El Jardín Road for future expansion of fire station number 33. The parcel at 2015 El Jardín is 16,915 square feet and next door to the station and zoned R6. Further, in the issue of the $19 million tab for the new SAPD substation in the southeast part of the city, an additional substation in the southeast part of the city would guarantee an increase in the annual operating budget for SAPD once it's completed. Senate Bill 23 penalizes Texas cities that cut police funding. Once the city council authorizes that increase, they cannot lower the amount in the future. Further, there is little to no data available from the city or SAPD indicating that a substation is necessary for the southeast portion of the city. The information that we received from Kevin Orton indicates that a new substation would cost on an annual basis and taken from the annual operating budget $4,500,000. And so I think that the central substation on the North St. Mary's still isn't finished. So we're increasing our potentially, we are increasing our annual operating budget that comes out of the city, almost up to $10 million. Thank you.
If I can for a quick second. So, and Maria, please correct me if I'm wrong, but so one of the things on our Zoom meeting the other day with the tri-chairs and the other chairs, the mayor mentioned that I made a comment about the fact that it was a lot of discussion in our meetings about the fire stations. And I believe, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but with the census and the growth of San Antonio, there's a possibility that we can use some of the funding from that growth to add possible fire stations. Is that correct, Maria?
You are correct, co-chair. And so as our our economy grows and there's more revenues coming into the city as our budget continues to address the needs of the community, that would be a possibility. There's also a possibility for opportunities for the city to utilize federal funds that we have been receiving to address inequities in our community and address those areas that have been neglected. So that is another funding source that could be utilized specifically as to your question for fire stations. And that is the ARPA dollars that we have been discussing with the council. As a matter of fact, today, that's one of the topics that we cover. And the question came up if a fire station like 33 could be funded out of those dollars, and the answer is yes.
Thank you. Just the closing thought on that is that, so something that Chris said is that we should be able to also make some additional recommendations back to the council on that tier of possibilities that don't get the funding. And I did make a comment on the Zoom that, is there a way that we can look at, with respect to the fire stations, looking at some of them that have not received any bond dollars in quite a while, and we can kind of just start like a rotation, consider a rotation where we can prioritize those in the next round that did not get any dollars. I think it's incumbent upon us to take some time in consideration, send that information back to Chris and I, that can possibly improve the process, this bond process as well. Thank you.
District 4, Ms. Rita.
Thank you. I think this is on. I don't know. It's on? Okay, great. Thank you. I don't have any questions for any of the presenters tonight, but I do want to take this time to thank the staff for organizing the tour. That made such a big difference for me to actually go and see some of these projects. Because we had some issues with our bus, we didn't get to go to see Ella Austin. And I went with Katie and with Beverly District 2, and we had the tour. The board was still there. If any of you are on the fence, not knowing if Ella Austin is something that you want to support, I encourage you to go and tour Ella Austin. It's just an incredible place. They are so tuned into the community, and they are doing so much with their outreach that I think it's really important that you see it. So that's all I have. And I appreciate, thanks Beverly for bringing Katie and I over there. And it was wonderful. And staff, thank you. The tour was what I needed.
Thank you, Ms. Rita. Councilwoman Ramos or Pete for District 3.
There we go. And I kind of want to ditto what District 4 just said. Thank you, staff, for all your hard work. It's a lot of work, and it happens every 5 years for us, but I know you are constantly doing it. So thank you again for this hard work. I do have a few follow-up questions. Listening to 45 residents this evening, and thank you everyone who showed up. We really do take into account your comments, your opinions, and your thoughts. And I know it takes a long time to go through this process, and it only happens once a year, so you only get once a chance, to ask for those monies. So going back to District 3 and the substation, appreciate District 5's comments, but I am in full support, and we are in full support as a committee member, and I've talked to many members here as a part of this facilities committee, and I would appreciate your support on this particular effort. District 3 being a representative for that area and working in that district previously, I've heard other comments from District 3 residents that came here this evening and expressed opposition to it, but I can tell you for the 15, 18 years that I've lived, represented, or been involved in neighborhoods or community groups or organizations like Pressa Real, Pressa Community Center, South Chamber, they have all shown support and need and pleaded and begged for a facility like this. We are the largest geographical area that has one representative, has only 2 libraries and has a lack of access to resources. And this one in particular would help benefit. I did ask city staff for public land that is currently owned by the city or that is county owned or something that we can barter so that we don't have to spend $19 million or any of that into real estate. We can continue to use public land and invest in it and build a beautiful substation that is well needed in our district. So I have asked for that information to make sure that it is something that can be utilized rather than having to spend money on real estate. A couple of questions, and I'm going to lean on the individuals and the representatives that represent those districts. But for the Petco Foundation, I have asked staff to look at the terms of the lease, as a partner. When was it put into place? The particular agreement with Petco Foundation, K9 for Warriors, have they met their goals as far as what they were intended upon the agreement? I just would like to make sure that there's justification. I did hear today that, a facility was just recently built. And some of these facilities that we're talking about, the city facilities that have, been in operation since 1973, 1993, 1994, have not seen any upgrades. And so I have some grave concern for that. But I do want to give Petco Foundation an opportunity to at least, and the city to provide that information so I can make a detailed opinion about this. Also for the Texas Biomed, I heard a lot this evening. I do understand the need for it, though. I asked staff a clarification because I did reach out to my county commissioner, and I have learned that they are going to be using ARPA dollars to help fund their portion of the Texas Biomed. So I just want to understand, is that a viable solution or is it not? If it is this something that we can move this request into? And so just want to make sure I get a explanation or a better understanding why Bexar County feels that they can use ARPA funds and we may or may not be able to. And I think did I get everything? Okay. I think we got everything for District 3. Thank you again.
Thank you, Councilwoman. District 2.
So good evening, everyone. Thank you so very much for this time. So I'm speaking for our collective. The very first thing really is not about a project. It is about a process and our ability to manage this. We have one thing that we have all learned, especially those who went on the tour, is we have seen the same things over and over again. I honestly thought Ella Austin was the only place in the town that had such dilapidated facilities and needed that. However, it is systemic throughout our city, and that's why we are sitting here tonight. So I would ask that the staff really develop a proposal that we literally look at the 9% that the city gets from this, and that we actually really equip our city manager and we've got great staff. So it's not a staff thing. It's about a management thing, that we actually come up with a single department, not scattered through different places, but a single consolidated centralized department that actually has the responsibility for the maintenance and the development of our facilities so that 5 years from now, we will not find ourselves in the same position. I have met all of you all. None of you are insane. And the definition of insanity is to do the same thing and expect a different result. We should not be sitting here 5 years from now having people come back to ask for the same kinds of things and to fix our facilities. And so our fire people can have bathrooms, our women can have bathrooms, our police department, which we depend on safety. It's just ludicrous. And we're not insane. All y'all incredibly intelligent, very bright. I'm going to invite you to my Christmas party. So you're on the list. I collect you. So I do. That is something that's not for a specific issue. That is to equip our city with what they need to do this job well, number one. So in terms of our community, our committee, one of the things that we recognize, Biomed has obviously, there are some economic benefits to our city. And so one of the things that we really talked about is what can be done. I'm glad to know I hadn't talked with my county commissioner about the support for them with ARPA fundings. But what's going to be really key is that this is a very controversial issue. So the way my mind thinks is I don't think about right now. I'm thinking about 2 and 4 and 5 steps ahead. You guys, we have to realize we have to pass these bonds. And so this is a lightning rod. And so I would honestly, if we do actually provide funding for biomed, I would honestly hope that we can actually categorize that money for what everybody is concerned about, and that is the primate care. And I'm saying that because if the ARPA funds, which really is what the Build Back Better funds are about, it really is about construction, and we can help, get them construction and put this money into the primate care. Knowing on Saturday, we found out that they had an indirect rate of 95 to 98%. And what that means is for every dollar, 95% goes to administration. A nickel goes to the program, which means that's, if that was in fact the case, that's what they told us. And so that might be part of the reason why there's not necessarily enough money for the primate care. So if that is our issue, you all, maybe what we do if there's money provided to them is we designate it for the things that we are most concerned about. And I'm saying that because, again, if we want these bonds to pass, like in District 2, sometimes we're not enough to win an election, but we certainly are enough to make an election be lost. So it's about that. Any significant group that lobbies against this can easily tip the scale so that we don't get bond money for anything. I just want us to remember that. So that was from our collectiveness.
Thank you, Beverly. That reminds me of go ahead. No, go ahead and finish.
So I just had we were just talking and we were concerned again because of the contentious nature about biomed and that the ACS hospital build is in with the health and public safety part. Is it possible? I mean, I know K9 for Warriors is in the other facilities part. Can ACS be moved to the other part of the bond, the facilities bond, to where, I mean, we were just concerned that that was going to not pass because of the biomed and all of the controversy. Yes. So I don't know if that's a possibility after they've already been categorized, but we thought we'd ask.
You want to respond to that, Maria?
Sure. Actually, I'm going to defer to City Attorney's Office for the categories on the bond program to make, we have certain requirements on how those are listed. So Lisa?
While they talk that through, I just want to get a clarification back to District 3. Did anybody else get this document?
So I
No.
guess the answer is that it's a facility, so we'll stay within that proposition, which is voted as a facilities proposition, regardless if we divide them between public health and safety. Is that correct, Lisa? They're still within the facilities. Can you come up to the microphone and explain?
I'm Councilwoman Ramos, there's a document here and it says, oh, this is from District 5 committee members. This is from, okay, got it. Do you want me to distribute this, circulate it to everybody? Oh, do you all have this? They do not have it. Thank you, ma'am.
Co-chairs, we will have our city attorney's office come back with an answer on that, so we don't delay the process.
Perfect, thank you.
Two really short things. Number one, with Meals on Wheels, if we do put that onto the bond list, based on the need and the delta between the current client count and the current total need, it makes sense to locate that more centrally between districts 1, 2, 3, and 5, based on the numbers. Secondarily, last point, I just want to make sure we have a broad perspective of what public safety really means and what we mean when we say it. We had Pastor Jamie come up here and give an impassioned speech about Anthony Rodriguez. Hearing about his murder, hurts my heart, but I've seen tears in the eyes of many people about murder, including the aunt of Charles Roundtree, who was murdered by law enforcement, including the family of Damon Daniels on Tuesday of this week, who finally got a little bit of justice, who was also murdered by law enforcement. So I want to make sure we have a broad perspective about public safety. When asked There's studies that show that when people are asked what makes them feel safe in a community, it's a, well refurbished or good standing fire station, not necessarily a police station. I'm not speaking against it. I'm just saying fire stations are placed higher on the totem pole when it comes to public safety perspectives.
Thank you, Mohammed. Jordan, District 1.
Thank you. Jordan, District 1. So this is for probably Chief Hood and Maria. So I worry that we might be painting a pretty dire picture of the San Antonio Fire Department stations, and I don't think it's accurate. There are some stations that are in dire need of repair, but would you agree that's not the department as a whole?
That is correct.
Okay. And I'm going to continue to advocate for another fire station to be added to this, just for the record. How much would a new fire station cost? I'm looking at the committee memo here, and there was 11 fire stations constructed at a cost of $61 million. So is it safe to say that on average it's a $6 million cost for a new fire station?
$12 million is what was requested in the documents.
Yeah, 12.5 million. I think that the average that you may be referring is past construction. So based on current estimates, about 12.5 million.
Okay. Is there a preference for which station would be replaced if we were able to find $12 million in funding?
Yeah, so the priority of the fire department, we have Fire Station 10, Fire Station 33, 21, 51, and 52.
All right. So
I'm sorry, 52 and 53.
So number 2 would be 33s. Thank you. And then I guess the last question I have is pretty simple. I believe today you guys presented to council the ARPA recommended framework, and it was $128 million in impactful investments. Is that correct?
Yes.
Can we get a list from Kevin or staff of which of the considered and recommended projects for the facilities bond would be eligible for that 128 in the recommended framework? It's
So
just like
I
a
guess
straight
if
yes
I-
or no if it would be eligible for ARPA funding or not.
Correct. And I'm sorry, if you can repeat the question, projects that are,
Eligible for ARPA funding that were in the facilities bond under the considered and the recommended lists.
understood, we can do that.
All right, that's it.
You good? That worked pretty well. Why don't we go down here to District 6 and we'll work our way back.
And good evening, everyone. Ramiro Gonzalez with District 6. Thank you again for everyone who's participated tonight. I think there's an incredible showing of community support around our fire stations, around our libraries, and our public facilities, for which there, are really no other other funding sources, really. And so thank you for coming out and expressing that. In representing Councilwoman Haverda, she has strong support for the Biomed SA facility. It is definitely an asset from a science and technology biomedical asset here in District 6. It's created a number of different jobs. It, as has been stated tonight, has supported education in many ways, in many unprecedented ways. And so it is definitely an asset. And because it is an asset, it's also a more sensitive asset. It's one where it is infrastructure. This is a sensitive asset where we do want to make sure that it is supported, because if not, the infrastructure is there now, it could become a problem. So we are invested in it already. That being said, I personally do see the huge need of what is before us. And this is, across, really just across the board, when we're talking about where public dollars go. And I think it is appropriate when dollars are spent in outside external projects. The question is how much, what is appropriate, that level of support. And so for me, I will be still evaluating exactly what is appropriate. That's personally on my part for any outside agencies. Of course, K9 facility is also in District 6, also doing incredible work, relieving our ACS system of animals and putting them into service for our veterans. And then even if they don't work out for the veterans, they put them into other careers, other ways to kind of put these animals back into productive use rather than going back to ACS and possibly being euthanized or just sitting there. So it is performing a real public service. again, same issue is whether or not the level of funding that is recommended on any particular outside agency is appropriate, I think is always up for question, and whether or not what that level of support is versus the actual project cost is always a concern of mine. So those are my comments, but I'll defer to my colleague here.
I wanted to circle back on the fire stations, and I think you listed the 5 that were priorities, Maria. And I wondered then, I'm just unclear, is there already financial plans being in process to prioritize those? Are those going to come online about the same time that they would if they were funded in the bond?
So what we indicated in the response memo that we provided is that we would develop a plan as part of the fiscal year 2023 budget process that will begin in about April, May timeframe of 2022. That has to go through a process, meaning that we make recommendations to the city council for consideration, and those are considered and approved as part of that process. So I couldn't guarantee that those specific fire stations will be included in the 6-year capital program, but that is what we staff are proposing to present to the council. Now, as far as the timing of when those were to come online, that depends on when those get funded.
Okay.
But that is what we indicated that we would do as part of our 2023 budget process.
But very specifically, you're prioritizing Fire Station 33 from the
Correct.
city staff perspective.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Rudy Morales with District 7. I really have nothing to add. A lot of people have said a lot of the stuff that I wanted to say. But, yes, so there is dire need of some of these fire stations. I think the last 11 fire stations that were added, I'd like to commend our Chief Hood, have tremendous respect for his staff, done a good job. But the stations that they're prioritizing, like 10, 33s, which I believe Councilman Castillo and some of District 5's reps visited firsthand, saw up front. And I'd like to add 21s to that. I think there's really a great opportunity right now with some federal monies and all that to kind of speed up some of the process that we go through. And that's all I really have to say. It would be great and a lot of morale and a little bit more healthy. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Rudy. District 7. Anything else from District 7? Go ahead.
Okay. For the Magic Theater, is Frank still here? Yep. Can you please clarify the amount for the entire budget to make the Magic Theater both safe and accessible? And what % of that budget are you asking for through the bond? Being that it's a city facility and y'all are putting money into this, correct?
Right. So basically, we had an initial plan, which was to totally redo the entire building, which meant tearing off the back, temporary building and rebuilding up. That we don't have on the plan right now. So what we're looking right now is about $5.5 million to basically, at that level, we'd be taking the floor of Magic Theater back down to the way it used to be. For 1968, for Hemisphere, what they did is they put in a fake floor with risers and then laid metal and put concrete on top of it, which then made that not accessible. If we go back down, the hardwoods are still there. We've had contractors look at them. We'd be working with the hardwoods and redo it, and then we'd have to resurface different seating and everything. But that way, the restrooms we have and everything would be totally accessible. But it'd be a little over $5 million right now is what we're looking at.
And does that include making the stage accessible?
The stage right now is accessible only through a ramp that we have, that we put in the back, a chairlift. That would not make the stage accessible in that manner. We would have to figure out something else for that, but that was not in that plan. The only thing we can do right now, as I said, we do have a chairlift that we put in so that a performer can get up from the rear. We do have a plan at one point in time to put an elevator lift from the basement up. That is not included in the plan I just talked about either, though.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Anything
And-
else, District 7?
And then just to be clear, the art budget, the 1.5%, that is only for visual arts. It does not include, no performing arts organizations would be eligible for those funds, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Good. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, District 7. District 8.
Just a quick thing to say. I wanted to really thank Meals on Wheels. I did not know about the Alzheimer's services that they've expanded into and touched very personally by Alzheimer's, and I appreciate that, and I very much support Meals on Wheels. And I feel like thank you for everything that the staff has been doing to provide us with information on all the questions, and I've had quite a few of them. And one of them is outstanding. And the reason that I asked about what kind of communication that K9 for Warriors has had with the district council people that I know support this very much is because in my research, I've discovered that the nonprofit status of K9 for Warriors is a 990, which means that they can make political contributions. So they are largely a political organization. And I know they do good, and I feel like that it's wrong to think that by not supporting this project that I don't support what they do. But I have a problem with this. And there are so many other organizations in the city that do similar good, that work with ACS. And so I want to thank everybody who reads the memos when they come back in here. And as far as Texas Biomed, I want to talk to you later. The District 2. Yes, we'll talk after. And that's pretty much what I have to say today.
Thank you. District 8.
Okay, I'll start. I have really three areas to question. I think most of it has been covered. I just like to clarify. First of all, on the fire station facilities, we've got a lot of information. Obviously, they have a lot of needs. And I hear we know what station would be next. I guess the question I really have is I was just looking at a list that we got from one of the other groups where they simply have a list of priority projects. 1, 2, 3, it's really simple. And I wonder if there's something like that we could get for the fire department. If we were going to add another one, I mean, maybe, I don't know if it's all just new stations or if there's some replacement or upgrades in certain parts. So just really wondering if we could get a list of what would the fire department ask for in order, for the next 3 or 4 or 5 things.
Sure. So the priority is 33, 21, 52, and 53 in that order.
And do we know how much each of those are?
For fire station 33 and 21, those would be replacements. So that would be about 12.5 million. 52 and 53, they're temporary stations. So we just have to build the building. We already have the base for the equipment. And Rusty, do you know how much? Let us get back to you on the replacements because we already have the land and we already have the base for the equipment.
Right.
So it's just the building that we have to budget for.
Okay, all right. Well, I think that would just make it a little simpler when it comes time to next week for us to start just listing. We're going to have dollars and we kind of just need to know what each one. Lost it. There you go. Along that line, just to kind of help out the group, I'm kind of wondering, could we get each of the district teams to come up with what their list might be? Could we ask that for, not tonight, but for the next meeting, that we come to the meeting kind of already knowing what we think we might want to prioritize in addition. I know you're kind of asking for that with the motions, asking that we prepare the motions or suggest motions. Is that how you would like that to work, that we would make a motion to add, I understand if we were going to defund one or move one up or change it. I'm really talking about the additional projects, the below the line, the prioritization there. Should we not ask that we have that sort of already framed out, ready to go, so we could speed things up?
Yes, that is an excellent question. And one of the memos that we provided, we included a form that if there was a project that needed, the committee wanted us to consider below the line, to provide that to Kevin. And that way we can assemble that list for the next meeting. It wouldn't be prioritized per se by the entire committee, but it'll give us an idea of those projects below the line that you would like to consider.
All right.
But I think the opportunity is there are 17 projects. And I don't know if there's a possibility of those 17, there may be 5 that are undisputed, everybody agrees with 100%. And so if there were to be some type of tracking mechanism where the districts, everybody of the 17 projects, plus all the additional that we heard, which ones do you favor and or have concerns of? And it's almost like a consent. If we know that there's 5 or however many that are automatic, that way we get them off the table and clear 100%, and then we know what the balance is that we're left to debate and decide upon. Is that something that would be of value to this committee? Dwayne, what do you think?
Go ahead, Maria.
From my perspective, I would say yes, because that'll make our next meeting more efficient in terms of knowing what the consensus may be of the committee members, so we can prepare a motion as such, and then we can discuss those where changes need to be made or the committee would like us to add or delete.
Okay. Let's keep going down, and then we can come back to final closing comments, questions about processes moving forward. Okay with that, Dwayne? Yeah. Okay. District 8, continue.
I think we have a couple of.
Yes. Yes,
Just
sir.
one
Yes, ma'am.
more quick question, and this is something that you can get back to me on or whomever can. But this morning, there was an article in the Express News about Texas Biomed breaking ground on a new massive primate breeding facility and to address a nationwide shortage of primates. And I'm just curious if selling those primates as they're going to all across the country or world, will that be an additional revenue stream for them? And did that come with additional federal funding?
There'll be a question that will be addressed before the next meeting. District 8, continue. Yes, sir.
Here you go. I wanted to clarify something. We talked about it twice now, tonight and before. Just building a police substation does not necessarily raise your operating expenses. You've got to staff it. As we build a substation, you're going to staff that with people from other substations. We had an answer in one of the emails that how much does it cost to run a substation? This is not a case, I don't believe, of you build it and they will come. Like the day you open it, you'll have it fully staffed. You'll be borrowing staff from other substations, I believe. Isn't that right?
So for any new facilities, just in general, there's additional operating and maintenance costs, like it would be for a new fire station, for example. With that said, for the police substation for D3 and the one at St. Mary's, we are adding uniformed personnel, which are the supervisory roles, the captain and the sergeants and the detectives, as well as civilian staff. That additional cost does not include additional patrol officers.
As a graduate of your Citizens Police Academy, I understood that we're way behind on hiring now. So you're not going to necessarily be able to fill that substation completely day one.
Well, we're not behind. We actually have done fairly well in filling our vacancies. And we plan ahead. So for instance, if we're going to open a facility in a year and a half, then through the budget process, we begin the process of adding those positions so we can have them ready when the facility opens.
Okay, so that number you gave us was additional operating expense.
That is correct, yes.
However, if you have that need for officers, you're going to have that operating expense regardless of whether you thread them into a new station.
So this additional cost is for the additional substation, not for additional patrol officers.
Right. So you did take that in fact. That's not just dividing total numbers of substations now by the total current.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Anything further, District 8? District 9?
Hi, I'm Lisa Taylor with District 9. I want to reiterate what we've been hearing. Vast support for fire, vast support for libraries, and police, although there is some dissent about that. So a lot of what we're hearing is basic city services when we think of what a city provides. And I think that we could come together on a lot of those. The other thing that we heard a lot about was Texas Biomed. Not giving my personal opinion, all I'm saying is we're thinking about if we want to take this to the voters, it is polarizing, it's a distraction, and we really need to consider what that can do between now and May. So that's another thing that we've talked about as well. We talked about a lot of from the very first meeting, the process, and it was so confusing as how we even got here and what got on the list and what was taken out. And I think that's why we have so many groups coming at the last minute, even today, asking for funds that we never even heard of. And I think there has to be some reevaluation of what this process is. We started in March, and we don't have a single project on here. And I know I raised that before. And I think that there has to be some buy-in with every single district, because when we go to our HOAs and people write us and they're saying, where's District 9? What am I voting for? I can't tell you. Everything's under citywide, or if it's another district, or it's regional. Something needs to change when we do this process again to where we're given the criteria and we understand what the scoring system is. And even then, the scoring system was ignored. There were several questions, very vague political answers in the memos that we received as to trying to explain why higher scored projects were not put on this list and lower scored projects were. So arbitrary. So that needs to change. So going back to how we can best represent, I'm thinking libraries. You know, everybody had a library on there. I think every single district, we really wanted Brook Hollow expansion. It's such a tiny, adorable facility. If you drive by it, you just, you know, and it serves a tiny little parcel of land. I mean, you may not even know it's a library because, you know, it hasn't been updated in so long. But it serves, you know, such a huge, when we say growing, I mean, the zip code itself, it's grown about 9,000, you know, in 20 years. But if you look at the 281, 1604 corridor, tons of growth. So we're thinking about how can we accommodate more of these projects? And you know, some of the things that have come up just under discussion as far as libraries is Las Palmas. Can we just trim that to where it's just the library and not the wonderful recreation center? Although that would be great, but we have to think of wants versus needs. Carver, again, worthwhile, but can we think about not making it an area, you know, library demographics flat, 16,000 for the last 20 years. Can we trim that to make room for other libraries? World Heritage Center, great history, but I mean, it's basically a park. We're asking for a $3.5 million park. So these are some of the things we're talking about priorities is, can we trim? Can we maybe phase in Ella Austin? I don't know what the logistics are of that because they do have some TERS money. And I'm not saying no, but can we maybe do things in phases to make it more, you know, accommodate some of these other smaller projects, these $2 and $3 million projects that are expansions, renovations, you know, not too ambitious. They're pretty modest so that we all can make this a true facilities, you know, District 1 to District 10 proposal to our voters. So when everybody goes to that ballot, they can say, hey, that's down the road. That's 5 miles from me. That's 2 miles from me. That means something to me. I drive that on the way to work or school, rather than these huge projects that are just ambitious and and just taking up a lot of our funds. We need to prioritize wants versus needs. And the only other thing that I think has come up a lot is private versus public. I asked for the charter and I got the quote from the charter that says basically if it's not illegal in the state of Texas, it's possible. We can chart it through the bond. I mean, we can fund it through the bond. But I mean, is that really what we want to do? Where, again, so many worthwhile causes, but we have 10, 20, 30, nonprofits coming, knocking on our door every single time. That is a very overwhelming task when we also have things like libraries, fire, and police. Now you have 10, 20 different nonprofits wanting anything from $25,000 to $11 million. So we really need to think about the process of bond. When I read the criteria, I think it said citywide facilities, and then it kind of, obviously that's not the case. We're not just dealing with citywide facilities. So that's what we're thinking right now.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Anything else for District 9?
Oh, did you want to talk about the K-9 really quick? Okay.
Okay, thank you. District 10.
Sorry, I was making notes to myself. Beth Graham with District 10. We had a couple of different questions. First of all, with regard to Las Palmas Branch Library, why are recreational facilities included in a library bond project and not concentrating on the core library services? And in that case, since it was a combined library recreational project, why was the parks element of that project not included in the approved list? So we're going to have essentially 2/3 of a project completed with the last third pushed down the road to some unknown future. Is there a possibility that the 1.5% for art could be backed out of some of these projects and used to apply to critical needs projects? And then my final question is more of a procedural one. With regard to other categories on this bond initiative, will we be allowed to comment on possible alternative uses for some of that money? Thank you.
So the specific charge to this committee would be just within the facilities proposition, to answer that last question that you had. Rusty, do you want to answer the question on the Las Palmas Library?
Nadia, is there 2 facility propositions? One for public safety and one for, okay.
Yes. Is that what you were talking about? You were talking about the propositions like for streets and drainage and park, yeah. So our charge is the facilities propositions.
So as a citizens committee, we would not be allowed to comment on whether we think on the suitability or feasibility of other bond propositions.
Correct. Our charge is to make recommendations and changes to the facilities proposition.
I would just add that as a citizen, you can go to that other committee's meeting and give your input, right? But not.
Yes, that actually
in this
happened
one.
tonight. Someone
Right.
from housing spoke to you, so yes.
Thank you.
On art, though, we do have an answer.
Yeah, I'm going to answer the art first. There is a city ordinance. Any capital improvement project must have a 1% put aside for art. Excuse me. We had this year 3 or 4 B session. The idea was with city council, should art stay 1% or 1.5% or 2%? So far, staff is proposing 1.5%. You could cut back for 1%. Regarding the Las Palmas Library, we have also done in West Side Strategic Area Development, we are including these 2 projects together, which the proposed bond 5.2 5.2.5 million. And the intention is to get more money, more job for the money is available. This is going to be one project together, library and plaza development.
So we can drop the 1.5% back to 1%?
You could, because that's the today's ordinance.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Graham, that's a great closing thought. And it's about how motions are made. Creativity, I don't want to say you attach strings, but I really like what Ms. Taylor said. Whatever we do, we got to get this to the voters. It's got to be for the benefit for all of the city. I know that you're getting calls, you're getting pulled different ways, and there is no wrong reason, rhyme, or answer. It's what we believe is a group, as a consensus. Do I have a favorite project? Absolutely. But our job here is to help facilitate, navigate this group together so that we are all united. We may not be unanimous, but we're going to be for sure united moving forward of having majority. So
Parliamentary inquiry.
What's that?
Parliamentary inquiry. What is a proper motion for the next meeting? So if I wanted to make a motion to add Fire Station 33 into the list of recommended projects, do I need to come with a project that needs to be defunded to make that?
Great question, Jordan. So the reminder, send your motions to the city, to John and to Maria. Send your motions if you would like to add that. I think that we're going to work with him. And again, there's 17 projects, and we may ask you, just put yes, no, maybe by each one. And we can figure out what are the undisputable, all in, everybody's for each individual project. Does that sound doable, Maria and John?
I'm looking at the attorney's office. I have to make sure that we're not taking a vote until we get here.
I have a question.
The idea next meeting for the voting, the organization for the next voting meeting is to have y'all come with a consensus and you would take a vote on what y'all majority agree on, like all that projects, vote on that and move that to the table, and then leave the projects that maybe y'all don't agree on or have a consensus on to have a discussion and to vote on those, whether to remove them or to add them in. And then once that's done is to move what we call to the bottom of the line projects, a list of projects that are the extra projects that maybe in a year from now, if we have extra money from the bond or somewhere else, can be added into there.
Parliamentary inquiry. Is it a simple majority or super majority?
It's going to be a simple majority.
Point of information. Can you explain the purpose behind funneling our proposed motions through an alternate office?
So the idea for us to get your thoughts is for us to prepare those motions ahead of the next meeting.
So,
In what manner? Preparation in what manner?
So if there's, for instance, a project that perhaps some of you may be wanting to reduce, let's take arts as an example, from the 1%, from the 1.5% to the 1%, we can have that prepared and understand that that's a desire of a motion for the majority of the members. You don't have to do that. You can do this on the floor when we come back at the fourth meeting. We're just trying to provide some alternatives so we can have some of those prepared ahead of the meeting.
so the Parks Committee, the Parks Bond Committee received a survey that made it very structured in how to submit those propositions so that they could compile them before the next meeting. I would recommend that we look at that structure because it made it pretty clear and simple and very easy. So that's my recommendation.
Yeah, I can respond to that if you like. If that's the wish of the committee, we absolutely could do that. Yeah, so the Parks Committee asked, co-chairs asked a couple of questions of their committee through a survey. I think the first was something that maybe doesn't apply here, but within your district level projects, are there any changes you want to see that, within District 5? Is there anything inside of District 5 that should change? The second one was, tell me the below the line projects, what are your top 5, I believe it was. And then the third question was around if there's any movements around changes to projects, so deletions or additions, and what those are. So they asked you to articulate those things through survey.
Go ahead.
And this is really in terms of process. So if we wanted, I'm just trying to make sure we can be expedient. If the motion that I was talking about or the action was for this committee to make a recommendation with regard to establishing a true management, a true maintenance department that would look out for all of our buildings. And I recognize that, how that looks will really have to be up to the city manager and his team to do. That is really not about a project. It's about process, similar to something that Ms. Taylor talked about, processes that are going to get us, in a better position next year. How do you want me to do that? I really want to put that motion out. I can make it at the next meeting, or do you want me to put something together and send it around? Or
What I would recommend, Beverly, is their recommendations, and we much appreciate the comments on the process, perhaps what you mentioned, having the centralized plan. Those could be comments that we can formalize into a memorandum from this committee to the council with recommendations to implement short-term and in preparation for the next bond program. You don't have to take a motion for that, but we can formalize that from this committee to the mayor and council.
Yeah, we could issue a resolution. Doesn't require any action.
That's an option as well.
As we approach 9:15.
Really
Go
quickly.
ahead, Rebecca.
Well, I just think it's worth saying. I mean, I think we've spent a lot of time listening to community voice, and also around the table, right? And I think the walk away for me was less about a project, and it was more about a framework, right, by which we're going to make some priorities. And what I heard very loud and clear from people was public safety, whether that's fire or whether that's police, and definitely community, right? Whether that is a community center, although they're not on here, but libraries, right? Our human capital, our brain capital in our community. And I just urge us as we think through this to think less about a project and more about what we heard as the community voice. Because I know we need to go back to District 9 to say what's on here. And I'm willing to say, this is why we don't have a facility on here, but here's why. Right. And I think it's going to be equally important to go back to council, especially because some of these projects are incredibly mired with politics, right? To be able to say to the council and the mayor, we made a decision based on what we heard from community, which were these elements, right? So I just think it's worth saying so we don't get stuck in project, but we really get stuck on what was the community's priorities.
Well, thank you all for the comments. Just a couple quick ones from me. I liked hearing when Rita talked about having an opportunity to visit with Beverly. One of the things we about Ella Austin, one of the things that we discussed in our Zoom meeting and the city attorney commented on was basically committee members talking to each other about projects, and that's going to happen. I mean, dare I say, I would encourage you to speak to one another. You just have to be mindful, obviously, of a quorum. And I don't just stay away from that, but talking to each other about projects is something that I think is really good for the process. I live in District 2. I'm encouraged that the city council person for District 2 is here, and I'm watching him interact with his appointees, making sure that they're on one accord as much as possible. And I think that's a critical part of what we're doing here. I love to talk about the processes and making sure that down the road we're improving the way we look at the way we do these bonds every 5 years, the process of it. That's really good. So those recommendations coming out, I'm looking forward to presenting and talking to the mayor and other folks about just making the process more efficient. But I would encourage you just to make sure, given some of the comments that Lisa was making, that about some of the projects that she was a little unclear on. I hope the people that live in some of those districts or represent those districts that she talked about some of those projects, I'd encourage you to reach out to her and have a conversation with her. Having said that, this has been very productive. We look forward to the next meeting, and please be safe going home.
Can we get an opinion from the city's attorney's office whether or not a quorum is present when we meet outside of here? I don't think we're subject to TOMA. You mentioned a quorum and you were worried about us establishing a quorum. I want to make sure that we are or are not subject to TOMA, the Meetings Act.
Can I ask the city attorney's office to answer this from the microphone so everybody hears a response?
I just don't want to run afoul of any standing laws or city policy.
You're not subject to the Open Meetings Act, but just for the appearance and for the purposes of transparency, we ask that you vote or not have meetings outside this meeting. So don't meet in a majority outside the meeting, just like we do with any other board or commission.
Thank
So
you,
it's
everyone.
not
Good night.
legally required, but for perception purposes, we ask that you do that.